Oh.
In the face. It is,
You need something, Dave?
but you know,
That was my third victim's advocate call. Was that little 2-year-old in Somerset who's down. That was my third call. My first one was a kid my son's age. I was all like, go figure the two. I wasn't sure I could do it.
those are the ones that just take it. Yeah.
Your pointer? German, right?
I told me I was gonna do this.
Yeah, it's weird. I would stay exploited. But over here.
No, I was talking to myself. I'm trying to see. Maybe I'll just ask you. It's our live on YouTube.
Go right ahead.
Yes, because that just makes sense. Starting with our live.
I'm a red licorice. The best red licorice, I think, is what they sell at Tractor Supply.
Agreed. We go there and get it.
Every time I go there, I sell and I put it in my car and I eat it in 2 days.
I know. What size the bag? You didn't send around time.
It's just, I don't know why, it's just the cheap stuff. And I don't know if it's cheap, but
It's.
anyway.
Sam, did you send
Look
the
at
flavor? I was dying for candy the other day. Our officers went and bought it. She did pull it off. I got it, Sam.
Do we know who's coming tonight? I know Dave isn't, Dave Weber,
Okay,
but I don't know about Thomas.
I don't know about Thomas either.
And John has COVID.
Yeah, John has COVID.
Yeah, he was getting over it, but I don't know if he's over it.
Right.
That's gotta be negative.
Yeah,
Or uncomfortable.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know. Might join
I
them.
know.
Yeah, he might turn those.
We had quite a spike of COVID right after Mountain Harvest.
Not surprising. Always, always. Why?
Let's turn a laptop.
Oh, it's muted. I was like, oh, fixed it. I just.
I'm trying to get there. Fixing our equipment means nothing from day to day.
We need to.
Yes. How do we need to do? Yeah, right.
I know, we can't list. You know, I suspect that John is gonna join, he'd already be on.
Probably feels too bad.
Right, there's Thomas.
Oh, you're good.
Yay.
Thomas.
Thanks for the flag policy. Nick said we can get it done by the time the agenda goes out.
Yeah, sorry, been writing because I didn't think he was, he's hired officially. I saw him a couple of meetings, but I didn't,
He's
I
hired.
never saw it. Never heard anything about it.
Well. Sit down, Dave, and let's get the show on the road.
Get those signs up.
What?
Maybe get those signs up.
What signs were those?
Go look at the podium.
Him?
On the podium.
No. Not
I'll
him.
stop the hell down this way.
Oh. Always beneficial working with most.
I didn't have fun.
Are those the ones off the bike rack?
Yeah, I read them. Oh, no alcohol, the other was carrying that one. Says, no alcohol bags.
Yes.
Having free beer.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and get this puppy started, so I'm going to call us to order. Let's do the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
all right. Let's have a roll call, please.
Trustee Stevenson,
Here.
trustee Markle.
Yep.
Trustee Smith,
Here.
trustee Stelter,
Here.
trustee Valentine, trustee Weber, Mayor Backren.
Here, all right, we have a forum and can continue. Next on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Can I get the motion? Make a motion to approve the agenda. All right, second. All right, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, let's move on to announcements. I don't have any announcements. Anybody else? All right, let's move on to town administrator confidentiality. Paige?
We need a background on this, so
Yes, please.
I wrote, John and I were talking about the fact that we have two citizen volunteers in Steve Barwick, Aspen administrator, Bill Crank, previous Aspen administrator, Bill Crank, previous administrator of Crested Butte. And we realized that because these applications are not public information, I wrote to Nick and said, how can we have them help without running afoul? And he suggested that we do a confidentiality agreement. And Nick was out of town. There's John. Oh, good, good. So Nick was out of town and I asked my son, who's an attorney in Wyoming, to create this for us. And so that we could have it as soon as possible to get start their help. And I spoke to both gentlemen and they are more than happy to sign this and they can.
Yeah.
I know at some point in a search process, we have to divulge the names. I think that's close to the final. There's a state statute.
Only the finalists.
Yeah, only the finalists.
And it must go to public notice.
Yeah.
As well.
All right, John, how are you feeling?
COVID-y.
As long as you can, and if you have to leave, we understand. Thank you for giving it a shot. All right, well then can we get a motion to approve this town administrator? Second?
Second.
Discussion? All right. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? All right, that motion passes. All right, budget session number 4. Drum roll, please. Cindy.
Give me a second, I'm having trouble getting stuff to open.
Okay.
And if I might also say that Cindy, we changed the arrangement here so that Cindy and I could tag team a bit on the budget because she and I have met 3 times to go over details of the budget and the construction and where to begin, discussions and things like that. So we're gonna both make the presentation as we need.
Okay. See what she finds. Yeah. Okay.
Madam Mayor, I was wondering if there's clarity on the most important decisions that we need to be making because of the budget that would help move the process along. Because I'm thinking it'd be nice to kind of do those first and then get into the things later.
There we go.
And now we can make. Good use. Zoom in and whatever you need to do to make it.
We have a pointer that we can use when it comes time to start looking at individual budget line items and things like that. So do you want me to start?
Yes, please.
So in all of our discussions, we really just wanted to make it clear that the budget is our roadmap for the next year. And that as part of it, this is how we serve the public. And 2 of the main things that we have to talk about as part of the budget are staffing and salaries, which is what we have to have in order to do public service, and the projects that are being proposed to be spent with our revenue and in this case, the grant money. And I think the hope is tonight that Cindy is able to leave the meeting with some clear direction on how we feel about the added positions and the salaries associated with all the positions as she has proposed, which is in a table on page 43 of the packet. And that we also look at the revenue stream that has been projected, and we look at those capital projects that we think are a priority and we would like to have done. And I think with that, I'm thinking the best place to start might be with this salaries table. It's on page 43.
That one?
Mhm. And we can do some pointing, and I'll go ahead and describe the new positions that are being asked for. In addition to an administrator, we obviously need a town clerk, and there's going to be more discussion about that at our meeting on 13th. So we have to budget for both of those positions. The clerk is a new one since we had a single person being paid for both positions. And then the other position that is being proposed under the admin is for a front desk clerk, which is a brand new type of position. But in discussing this with Cindy, and I'm assuming Corinne, the thought was to leave that as a placeholder in the budget, but allow the new administrator to decide if they want a front desk clerk. In addition with having, a new town clerk to give them some wiggle room for flexibility. So that's one new position. And the other, there are three more new positions being proposed. And the two are being proposed to be in the trash fund, 2 part-time trash throwers that are 3/4 time, no benefits, but they are dedicated to being on the back of the trash truck. And as I understand it, this is being proposed because a lot of the public works staff are currently being pulled off the job they're doing to go fill in on the trash truck. And it's just very haphazard. It's slowing down progress on projects. And, the thought is if those two people can be dedicated to throwing trash, of course, there'll be times when they'll need help if they're sick or they're on vacation, but this will minimize those public works people being brought onto the trash. And then the third new full-time position with benefits is to add a third utilities person, with the thought being that there's a utilities person dedicated being the main contact for the sewer plant, and then Jordan and Jeremiah being main contacts for each of the water plants. Now, the way the budget is set up, they each are going to be pulling some of their budget from sewer and water. But this way we have people dedicated to the knowledge, and it'll be their responsibility to make sure things are working appropriately, but they'll all three be working together. But this way we have that third person. And I wanted just to add, just for the public and for the information, that both Jeremiah and Jordan have been doing nearly 150 hours of overtime this year, which we know costs money and it burns them out, and it's not a healthy thing. And they also have been having to do cover the facilities on holidays. And so we would like to alleviate some of that overtime and have more people to pull from. So I just have a question for you, Cindy, that came up in my discussion with a citizen. Do we normally have to have somebody on call for all of the plants during the weekends and holidays?
Yes.
Okay, so 24/7. So that's where those two and Benny, of course, is some of that too, but he's not here. So the thought is those two gentlemen, Jordan and Jeremiah, are just being stretched way too thin, and the thought is to add a third person. And then if you see this table on page 43, on the right-hand margin is the current hourly rate for everyone and the proposed increase and the percentage increase associated with that increase.
31 in the packet.
I think it's 43. It's 43.
Sorry, it's almost in the end.
Is that right?
Yep, it's 43.
So I have a question for Cindy and Corinne, obviously. If we put that third person into utilities, is there going to be enough coverage for those guys to get vacation?
Yes, they just can't, they just can't overlap.
All right.
Yes, that person has to be certified as well.
You don't have to have your certification under regulation 11. You just have to have the training and have the ORC, which is Benny Archuleta, willing to sign off under his license that you have the capability to operate the plants in his state.
Dave?
Well, I'm just looking at the percent increases in pretty astronomical. And what I'm concerned about is making sure we stay up with the market. But we do not, as a matter of policy, if I understand these correctly, just approve step increases in the year.
We have not done that.
Yeah, we have not done that as a matter of policy. And the chart below that shows steps 1 through 12 implies that we do that. And then it shows where people should be. Increases every year, I think.
What are you looking at? Dave?
On the very top of
Page 43, 1 through 12. Those are.
Oh, step increases.
Step increases.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily approve step increases, but all we've been able to afford to do is make sure our employees are paid fairly according to the market. So the question I have is, are the increases based on steps or not?
Well,
Okay.
Maybe.
I'm in favor of increasing them. I think. You know, I'm just looking at this and I see other towns getting out 6, 8%, maybe 10% overall. And what we're looking at here, look at the average of the increase of it just seems way.
well, it just, is that because we said we're not gonna have anybody to do all this now? So that's part one. So we're not gonna have anybody working under $20 an hour.
Okay.
So
So
there are several of those that,
part of the adjustment also was based on the salary that was set. So there is the CML salary and ranges that have been approved by the board consistently the past 3 years, maybe 4. And we've consistently started to move people somewhat rapidly in some situations up within those tiers. And what occurred recently with the board was 2 things. One was a statement. Now, there was never a vote taken, but the statement was made that no one working for the town should be making less than $20 an hour. And the other decision that was made was the range for the administrator, which is above the range that's set by CML. And so what was taken then was the comment that was made that no one should make less than $20 an hour, which automatically by certain percentages adjusted the bottom of the range for employees. That range did go under $20 an hour. And with the salary range that was set for the administrator was a certain percentage amount above. Knowing what we know from working with government professional solutions and other entities is there's typically a certain percentage range difference for your high level executive administrative positions. And so based on what the board had stated for the lowest and based on what the board stated for the highest, and somewhat taking into consideration the length of employment for some of our employees who've worked here for 20 plus years and were making less than $20 an hour, some adjustment based on how long they've worked here was included in the wages. Of course, as always, based on the decisions that the boards make, my suggestion would be that the board tie in on the range for the positions that are direct reports, which would be the town administrator, the town clerk, and what the treasurer position. And beyond that, it would be the acceptance of ranges with some salary and wage increases that typically would then be decided by the administrator and the department heads, depending on the department.
Could I add one more
Yes,
thing that I
okay.
didn't say in the beginning? No, I'll hand this to you if you need to describe more. So at the bottom of this table, you'll see a couple columns. And so this Cindy just said, because nobody should be under 20, that was the bottom. And the $40 that's shown are the administrator is the low end of the 85 to, right now we have 85 to 105,000 for the town administrator, and the $40 is low of that scale. And so Cindy just decided to do a $5 increment based on department head would be 35 as a starting point, lower management specialty. I'm not sure what W is, but SB is specialty. I work with a specialty. So that was just a way to have a gauge of where to start to look above and below for each of the positions that fell kind of within that, those kind of job duties. Now, I have to tell you, one of the things I said to Cindy was that we have not seen job descriptions for some of these positions, so we have no idea what kind of education and experience they're required to have. So that's a little bit of a gap for us at this moment for decision-making, because if someone can, in one of these positions only needs to have a high school diploma, or another position has to have 4 years of college for a starting, I think that's something we have to take into consideration as well. But we don't have that information. So that's where I'm a little, I already expressed to Cindy, I'm a little concerned about her own potential, proposed increase and the finance or clerk increase. Just as a quick glance. But I think, and I don't know, well, I don't want to say it, but I was just gonna, again, point everybody to that rightmost column, because I think that's where you get the best look at what everyone is making by hour now and what is being proposed, what the percentage difference is.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
This is current,
well, and
and
you,
it is last year's budget. They're not the same.
oh, okay, I'm sorry, I did not understand that. So look at the 2023. So this is what people are currently making.
Correct.
Is, yep, is under that column. So 30, okay.
Mr. Markle.
Thanks. Okay, a couple of things just in general for this discussion. One, we have to also consider in our compensation package, the benefits of working for town. And I mean, like the employee benefits, not just like the side benefits, outfits and boots and whatnot, health insurance, retirement package, things like that are extremely valuable and can give us a distinct advantage when we're trying to recruit people. And I expect that we're going to continue that even with this proposed wage increase based on the budget numbers that I've been looking at. Everything's still there and it's sometimes 3 times as expensive. So let's keep in mind that we offer excellent benefits, which you really don't find anywhere else outside of other municipalities or established entities like that, say NGOs. We have a market rate for some of these positions is pretty well, pretty easy to ascertain, get the town administration, town clerk. But when you get into labor positions, really the competition that we're up against is a lot more broad. So those positions are less valuable just in general. And I mean, I'm sure it sounds hard to say it that way, but because there are more people that can do them, they pay less. And it's just that's the way that the market works. So just in regards to the total cost of living and a living wage, I just had it open. I apologize. Just had a website where essentially, if you want to live, and it's different, obviously, for municipalities, but if you want to live in Colorado and be a single person, you can do that on $18 an hour, or 18 and change, and that doesn't include benefits. So I feel like going up to 20, I see the only people at 20 that I'm looking at here are labor and trash labor. So, I feel like it would still be a really good deal to be at $18 an hour, or $18.50 with benefits package available for most of these positions. I'm just being realistic and trying to support our employees, retain them, but also be realistic about what it's going to cost the citizens. So I'd propose, are we doing motions right now?
Yeah, I guess we can do motions right
Special
now.
meeting.
All right. Yeah, I moved it. We set a minimum town rate of $18 an hour for all positions across the board.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Yeah, Mr. Stelter?
Paonia being the highest cost of living community in the area, we have to take that into account too. $18 an hour is where that's kind of on the low end of the communities that do labor. You can't expect somebody to become a employee of the town, and they cannot live in the town. And that's what we're running up against. An ordinary one-bedroom apartment in this town goes for $1,200 a month. That's the lowest one I've seen in quite some time. I just saw a two-bedroom house that went up for rent for $1,875 a month. And that's where we're at. And $20 an hour, you couldn't rent that house. And I realized that that's kind of on the high end, but then I've seen $2,500 a month in this town for rent. And if we cannot retain employees, the cost of finding them, hiring them, and training them costs us more money in the end. And that's where we're at.
Yes, Ms. Ferguson.
And I would add that, I would add that at $18 an hour, your rent or mortgage should never be more than 1/3 of your monthly income. And so you're looking at $1,100 a month. And not only can you not find that in Paonia, nor the direct areas surrounding Paonia. We have positions that are open at that. And when you can go to McDonald's and have really easy labor in comparison for 16 an hour, you're not going to do. People don't want to do it. I agree that those used to be easy to fill positions because there was a lot of people who wanted to work and positions open for them, but that's not the case anymore. Things have shifted so much with people being able to do other kinds of jobs, working from home, side hustling. And I mean, it's amazing to me what people can do to make that $18 an hour salary. And I don't think it's proven. I have positions that have been open for months and months and months, and people are not applying.
Yes, Mr.
So I usually put that $20 an hour, that's roughly 40,000 a year. 30% of that or 33% of that is a little over 13,000. So the only thing they could afford to rent and keep it comfortable is something at 1,000. I think all of us know we can't rent anything. So I will not support that, but I do think that it's our role as a board to decide how big of a pot we want to give the town to spend on salaries and leave it to the staff to figure out how to divvy that up. I have some questions about, I like the idea of a place marker. I think that's really smart and that gets some room for the next administrator. I like that. But as far as those part-time trash people, I don't think we need, I think it's better to give our public works director, here's the pot of money you can use to kind of fill in for trash. He might find that it's better to just hire someone on a temporary basis for 2 months and then let them go and then hire someone else. You may not need, but I'd rather give them a pot of money to say you have 2 3/4 time positions because it locks them in. So I like the idea of giving our department heads flexibility. But I also want to be really careful about how much money is involved in all these. And then I also want to point out that the middle part of that chart is the police. And I stand firm on those increases. We've talked about the churning of officers, how much that costs us, and that we have the funds capable to be able to support those increases and keep police officers from churning off. So I'm not talking about that department, I'm talking about increases. So I'd rather see the bottom line, so I probably will vote against the motion.
And also, yeah, Ms. Ferguson.
I would say that I would agree with trustee Knudsen. Ultimately, the board should be establishing the amount of money and what percentage overall cost increase or things that they would be putting in place. And the other part that supports is, one, it leaves it to the department head to know what's best for the staffing level to get the best effort out of their staff. And two, it allows what I've taken advantage of a few times this year, and I've really has been very beneficial. And from what I've heard from the department heads, was very beneficial, was approving a bonus so that not everything is tied to a wage increase that you then are always having to match or top. Not only to make that staff member feel validated or valued for the effort that they're putting in, but everyone else that sees that they're getting that and why aren't they? I've had specific staff members in the last couple of weeks, because of conversations that they've been having at committee level or outside, come and say, well, I have the support of a couple of people, and so you need to be talking about my wage increase. And I'm having to tell them that's not the way it works. And you're valued and valuable, but it's not you get it this time and then maybe later we're going to look at your salary when we're looking at wages in a budgetary fashion. But the bonuses have been, it's been a minimal dollar amount in our budget, but they are very effective in showing someone, hey, I've seen what you've been doing the last 3 months, whatever the period is, and I want to recognize that, and here's this bonus. And so I think the pot is a very important thing.
There.
Just a minute, I'm letting Ms. Jones.
In addition, I'd like to remind the board that we have been chasing the bottom of our tiers for the last 10 years. At least we are constantly chasing the bottom. We're not even, we never get into paying people for their experience or their time here, because we're always chasing after the bottom range of the ranges, because they are increasing so much around us that we are constantly chasing the bottom of the range.
All right, I want to clarify that I do understand that that is the way that our budget has worked and continue to work. So maybe my motion was malformed and I withdraw it.
Okay.
So yeah, I think it's probably inappropriate for us to set anybody's wages, really, because it is the department's discretion as to like what they should get. But I think that realistically, I like the 33% rule for rent. That doesn't get followed anymore.
No.
You know, like it just, like realistically, it doesn't. And I think that, you know, it's nice to believe that it does or it could, but doesn't, sorry, you know. So I personally try and live that way. So I think it is a good basis of measure, but in a realistic sense, that's not the way, like, people can't do that. It just is impossible.
Anymore.
Right, yeah, it's more like 50, closer to 50.
Just wanna make sure I'm
It's more
getting-
realistic as to what is happening. And I hate it. I think it's terrible and I don't support it, but that's what it is. And today's process on that point, I think that the difference between $18 and $20 an hour is about $100 a month in rent. It's like $300 a month or so.
Yeah.
Is that right? I'm getting $10.66 as a monthly third for somebody making $20 an hour versus like $9.60 for somebody who's at 18.
All right, let's not back and forth here.
Sorry. So the difference is regarding rent marginal, but when it's spread against all these positions for the people of town to support, it adds up quite a bit. I had some other note on there. Wage benefits, right, so my motion is withdrawn. Have we ever done a bid process for positions like this? Have we opened it to bid applications? Say, hey, we need somebody that can pick up trash. How much do you want per hour?
And it's part of the application and interview process is what, what your expectation.
Yeah, negotiations and all that, but I mean, like a,
But no, we've never published.
hey.
Especially since statutorily now you're required to state what the range is that you're paying.
Okay, yeah.
Let me see if this motion, if this helps out. What I'd like to have and I think it's one of the concerns I have about this meeting we're in right now is if we make very serious decisions tonight about the budget, what we have is most people working. We have very few people from the public that can attend. So we're making major decisions about salary, about increasing water, sewer, and trash. A lot of our constituents don't have a heads up that we're making decisions that serious, those kind of serious levels of decisions. And in a way, I think it would be more considerate as far as transparency that the major decisions go to the 13th, but we give guidance to Cindy about what we'd like her to prepare so that for that meeting, people can see what we're considering. So in other words, the motion tonight I'd like to make about salaries is that we'd like to approve a pot. I'm going to talk a little bit and then get the motion. Okay. So we'd like to approve a pot of money. Yeah, don't try to take this down. Right? No, I'm doing the pace here. That was a kind remark, not a bad remark.
Practicing, yeah. I get it.
I'm just having a little fun with it, but
I get it.
what I think would be good is if we ask for tiers of levels of packages we could approve for salary increases. So the one that is here in the packet that has, and I'd like to exclude law enforcement from that. So the one we have in the packet right now has a bunch of increases for the people that are not in law enforcement and looking at what that average is and what that would cost. And step it down 5% and step it down another 5% and bring that into our decision-making meeting. So the motion is that we have a dollar amount of how much the salary increases would be under this proposal. And the dollar amount for 5% less and the dollar amount for 5% less than that. And that would be what we would be considering on the 13th, which is, I think, our next public hearing.
All right, so the motion I have is the dollar amount of how much
This proposal
costs, and then 5% less, and then 5%.
and then another 5%.
Okay, 5% less than 10%. Yes. Okay, now the second on that.
So I'm clear, the motion is the percent as a percent of increase, far right column.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so we drop it by 5%, drop it by another 10%. So that way we would be looking as a board, here's the pot of money we're giving our department heads to farm out and raises.
All right, we have a second. All right, so discussion. Yes, first.
The only thing I do want to add to the board then is, because Friday is the deadline that the preliminary budget, it's just a draft, it can be changed, has to be submitted to the board. And so that would be what's published in the packet. What we will do then is provide that document for the meeting on the 13th to discuss, but we'll maintain the salaries that you have in front of you right now. That's what's going to be built into the preliminary. As far as those dollar amounts per department, okay? All right.
All right, and then my question is, so then, for example, the public works director over here gets is raised 13% on this chart. So we're looking at him going down to 8%?
No. What you're looking at is the total dollar amount that the percent increases would be. And it would be up to the town administrators and the department heads who gets what. In other words, they have the authority to assign those ranges based on what they think is best.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm still unclear. So you're saying the five decreased by $5?
No, 5%. So
Okay, so whatever the value is that reaches that percentage.
let's say that this column, these increases in this budget here represented $220,000. So I'd like it reduced by 5% and reduced by another 10%. So it'd be like 210 and 195 is what we see in the budget. And then the town administrator for her direct reports will determine who's going. Or if those raises are deferred till January 1, then whoever the new administrator is will be coming in and determining raises.
And would that exclude the 3 salaries of board sets?
I'm sorry.
Would that exclude the 3 salaries of board sets?
No, I would not. I think we should look at the same thing for people at report class.
Do you want it separate? Instead of all lumped together?
That's a good question. What do you think about that?
Can I think about the 3?
Yeah.
So the 3 are the town administrator.
Right.
And the clerk, which is so wide open right now. We don't have much wiggle. I would suggest those 2 salaries not be included here.
Okay.
Because we're setting the salary level. We just have to make sure there's revenue to pay for it. Right. So I would take them out of this equation for Cindy's exercise. Because we don't know what we're going to offer. And then what was the third one?
The finance director, because she's treasurer.
Oh, okay, 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 well, that leaves 3 positions for admin.
Right.
And then the other one is the judge. We do.
Well, the judges.
Yeah, I was thinking you were thinking the judge.
Oh, no,
So
no,
I'm
no.
sorry, I wasn't thinking finance clerk. Okay. So that leaves 3 positions. Well, I think the finance clerk should stay in here because we have someone in that position. In my opinion, just because the other 2 are.
Mr. Sultan.
One of the things that I've done in other places is that the department heads get a budget for labor and they have to stay in that budget. And that would work, I think, better than us picking everybody's salary.
Oh, and we're
Takes
taking in.
very much time. Yeah, well, it's taken us a lot of time and we're not getting very far. I suggest that we set a budget for each department and go from there. You got a labor budget.
I just want to add, that's what the motion is for, as I understood it, that there would be an amount of money given to the town administrator for the administration and really public works director for the remainder of the employees. And then, so it's really how much of a pot of money of what's been proposed minus 5%, minus 5%. And then we can see what that does to the revenue, but we won't see it. We will not see it in the budget tables that we're going to see on the 13th. That's to be thought about. And I might like to amend your motion to exclude the police department.
Right.
And let's do 2.
Second.
Do second, okay.
Yeah.
Do it separately and let's talk about that too. But so I'm just saying all this just to make sure we're clear on the product that we would like to get from Cindy. And we're not asking her to revise the budget for the 13th to accommodate those other 2 scenarios. Just give us what the total revenue would be at the 5% reduction based on how much money here
And the 10.
and the 10% reduction for the administration, excluding the administrator and the clerk, and exclude the police on this motion, and then public works.
All right, so then let's get an amendment to the motion that excludes the police, town administrator, and the clerk.
Okay, know what it needs to look like. I did, and I did follow that from what from the motion that he made, because he stated prior it was excluded.
Okay, all right, so then we just need to add those 2 positions.
To exclude.
Okay, you want to make an amendment?
I'd like to amend the motion to exclude the town administrator and the town clerk from this exercise.
So second?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Think from the public on this. All right, seeing none. Yes, Ms. Ferguson.
So my only question to that would be, because if you've excluded, okay, well, no, I guess not. I was just thinking about that because you've already voted to increase the police department based on what was provided to you at the last meeting, effective
November.
November first, so it's, next payroll. If you make that do that for all of the positions. Because you were talking about whether or not they would do it retro now or,
No, this is effective January.
Right.
so you're taking off the table any discussion about doing any other increases for any other department or any other budget increase for salaries until January.
Correct.
Okay. That was not clear in your.
All right, Mr. Markle?
Yeah, Dave's comment made me wonder what that number is. The total hourly operational wage that we pay is $667.25 an hour, assuming these are all full-time positions. Is that right?
No.
No.
Which ones aren't?
Well, let's
Well,
vote on the
okay.
motion.
Well, it's pertains because we can figure it out right now if you want. It's
I
really
just-
easy to do.
No.
Okay.
One wasn't interested. Well,
right.
Ron's here, but it-
Well, weekly, we're $213,000.
All right, so anyhow, we have a motion sitting on the table that the dollar amount of, that we will get the total dollar amount of how much this costs. The first tier is here, the second is 5% less, the next is 10% less, excluding the police, the town administrator, and the town clerk.
Right.
All in favor? All right, the motion passed. All right, so is that, yes,
To help me understand now that that motion passed, I'd like to know what are we getting out of this exercise? What is your intent to get out of this exercise? What do you want to accomplish with this exercise?
Okay, what we want to accomplish is math.
yes,
I think the question is, what are we trying to get at? We're trying to get at a more reasonable way for the board to stay high in the clouds and make high level decisions rather than individual decisions on who gets what raises. We're trying to take that out of the board and put it in the hands of the department heads to make rational decisions because they're much closer to the ground than we are as board members. The other thing is, I think of anyone in the public looking at those percentage increases and reading in the papers about what other towns are giving as far as average increases to their employees. They're going to blow up because they're going to say towns, Paonia is giving an average of about 18% or 20% increases, and Montrose is giving 6%, and Grand Junction is giving 8%. These other towns are giving this. Why are our tax dollars going to that much money? So the second part of this policy is to get at, let's not be quite so aggressive with the salaries. Let's see what we get. I understand what you're saying about chasing. I'd like to come in and spend time with you to see exactly where everyone is on the approved ranges. You know,
That's what this is.
that's exactly what that is, yeah.
well, this is not the range I'm talking about. I'm talking about the salaries for the ranges, not this range.
I thought these were the salaries.
This is a step increase program where everyone gets an increase no matter what. Paige is describing what I'm talking.
Okay, got it. All right. So
Yeah.
what else do we need to do in salaries?
Madam Mayor, can I answer one more thing?
Yeah,
One of the things we have as a policy is that we want to see our employees paid fairly. We don't want them paid below market rates. So we look to that salary to say, are people below market? And that's what I'm more interested in than saying.
okay, all right. So, yes,
What I would add, I think that's it, and I think what I just would add is that I think when we're looking at this retrospectively, this is exactly what we've been trying to work toward for the last few years. You know, historically, what people are used to seeing and what they usually get are breakdowns like this, where you're seeing every individual person, and this is what we've discussed before, that when you are placed with this in front of you, your natural instinct, of course, is to go, okay, but why is that officer making that much? When that is not what you're supposed to be looking at. So by looking at the positions that you make the decision and saying, this is where they're at, this is the range, where are they in this range? How long have they been here? What's going on? That makes total sense. But when you're looking at the budget, and it's exactly what Trustee Knudsen is talking about, you're looking at it in arbitrary numbers. Okay, $500,000 is what we paid in 2022 for salaries overall in all of our departments. So what are we looking at now for all of our departments? Is it 600,000 next year when you look at inflation and staffing levels, some changes in that, and things like that, and looking at that total number instead of the individual person? So it makes sense to me, and it's exactly what I think we've been trying to work toward.
Yes.
So the other thing I was thinking is that Cindy looks at these by budget category. So I'm wondering if we could provide a little bit more direction to Cindy as to what we would like to see, because she is going to go into public works consists of water, sewer, trash, parks, streets, street cap. What else am I missing? Yeah, so do we want to see the starting salary in each of those budget categories and what it will be 5% less and 10% less? So she knows. Do we even want to see that, or do you want a general number for all of the general fund, which is broken into administration? The administration budget is one budget, and then the rest of it is the general fund and enterprise. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you want to see the 5 and 10 based on budget category? Because Cindy she has inserted these increases into the revenue table of each of the budget categories. Just get to
It's
that.
actually expenses table.
Yeah, current payroll and
Increases.
Yeah, so- thank you. So current payroll is on the top line of every expenditure, and then she added the additional based on her system. And if you scroll down on, let's say, on page 12, she has at the bottom of the last row shown in white. Well, white, and she has increases plus added positions. And in the case of, where am I in on here? She has added $90,000 to the existing budget for wages we have now. Do you want to see? So let's just say that's 90,000 plus whatever it is. Let's say it's 200,000 for this budget category. Right now is what would go into, or in this case, it's 600,000 for the public. Oh God, never mind.
I think
Okay, those are, see what I'm saying? What-
Mayor, I want to keep this at a high level. And a high level is what's the total amount in salaries? What's 5% less than that? What's 10% less than that? Let the department heads fight among themselves about which department gets what allocation.
So it sounds like
We're
that.
gonna approve the position.
We can't do it that way. Well,
You can.
It's
That's
just
the way governments typically.
Right. Yeah.
the way that we will do it is different than the way they describe it.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be, I'm sorry, Mayor.
Yeah.
You have a plan.
Okay,
I have a plan. I'm willing to give it to you, whether or not the next person on the phone.
Yeah. so what you're saying is you'll have a total number,
Yes.
and once,
Right.
then that total number will be appropriately allocated across all the funding categories.
You're gonna fight over, I'm gonna tell.
Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yeah.
you don't need to get into the
No.
details of how those allocations work. It's the job of
Right, exactly.
So hang on one second, because there might be one twist to this. Nope, there we
keep
go.
going. It's
There
at
we
the
go.
bottom.
That was
So if you
good.
go to page
42.
42 of the packet. The current payroll is with benefits, that's including benefits, 1.8 million. And that is split up between admin, building, law enforcement, streets, parks, water, sewer, and trash. And the percentages at the very, very bottom of that page.
Just scroll, sorry.
It is.
It's there, yep.
Those percentages that you see, that's the percentage of this payroll that has been allocated to those departments in
Mhm.
the budget you're currently.
So it looks like that if you just do the 5%, 10% off of those, then we will have exactly what we're talking about. Yeah.
That's what I was saying before, is that we
Yeah.
could actually have done this in about 10 seconds in the time it took us to.
Oh.
Right.
Okay, so we'll have.
This does include the administrator, the clerk.
Right.
And the police
Yeah.
department.
Yeah,
This
we
is-
got that other
Yeah,
10.5 too,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Okay.
Have we typed it?
Okay, all right, all right, so anything else on salary? Anything else on salary?
I would just like us to look at the police budget and make sure everybody is okay with it. Because we have not, well, no, we haven't talked about the police budget. When you all made the motion and it was approved to start paying them right now, we didn't have any numbers in front of us. So I just want to make sure the public knows that what's in this table is going to be approved as is.
Yeah.
But we've never talked about it.
We
No,
did.
no, there were never any
Fire
numbers.
safety committee, we met with Matt twice over his budget.
But
We
that,
have given him input. That budget has come before the council
Right.
twice.
agreed.
That budget. Law enforcement came in front of you twice.
All right, well, let's not argue about this. All right, we're not gonna argue about this.
Thank you.
It just seems like we have seen the numbers are here, the public can see the numbers here, it's all okay.
But we have not made a motion.
Well, we don't need to make a motion. We approved the increases at the meeting, which will carry over into the next budget.
I just have to push back on this a little bit. Because we did not have these numbers when you all made the motion. And I just think it's important that the public understand that what is in this packet is the first time we have seen the increases, so everybody is paid $20 and above. And I think it's important that it be noted that this is the first time we've seen it.
Okay.
And a motion was made for all of those funds to be started to be paid, I believe, in October, November. And I want to just turn to Cindy and say, are you good with the police budget for this 2022 budget session for being able to pay those salary increases? Okay,
All right,
thank you.
all right, then if we're done with salaries, what's the next thing we need to look at?
Now we can start with each department and any, I want to talk about any items that I could have missed that you want in this budget that might or might not be in here. So is there something let's start with administration. Is there something that you want in or you don't want in the administration budget that I have missed?
All right,
I want to ask is, I'm assuming legal fees are in administration.
They are.
What I'd like to see is an allocation of $10,000 for a water attorney to review our water rights to our springs to make sure.
That will come out of water, not out of,
yeah, the attorney fees will be allocated.
the attorney fees would come out of water for that. And, if you want to do that, then, wait till you get to water. Yeah, let's just wait until we get to water.
Yeah, okay, that'll be fine.
All right. Okay, anything in admin we want changed? As far as additions or subtractions? Yes.
Is this where our allocations to nonprofits come?
Yes.
Did we send letters to all the different nonprofits asking them if they wanted money for the 23 year and
No,
people respond?
they can't, in the past and lack of timing, we let the nonprofits come and request. We have never sent out letters requesting them. If they want money, they know that this is our budget season and they come in and fill out the paperwork requesting to be included in the budget. I have not received any that are anything additional to what we've done in the past.
Yeah, I was wondering what are they called? Fund type and account number would correlate with the nonprofit funds that they mentioned.
It's human services, it's the very last one under fixed cost, number 44
And
and 41, 44. It's line numbers 264.
What page of the budget is that on, please?
9.
Thank you.
And do we
That's gonna, and I can break it down for you if you'd like to know.
Okay, no, I have the full budget, so I'm looking at that version of it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was wondering if we wanted them to come in and actually speak to us and so the public knows what services they offer. We haven't done that for at least 2 years, I don't think, but I don't know if we have time.
Yeah.
But it would be nice. The last agenda packet had copies of their letters, I believe. So there was a little bit of information there, but
I think the only letters that I've actually gotten is, the seniors, Penn Senior Center, has filled out a request. Your request is the at Christmas, prizes. If you want to continue to do that. Then we have hospice, partners and North Fork Creative. North Fork Creative has become they've been here twice already. Talking about the sign project and their plans. They've been here. So if you want to change any of those, we can, but those are the one, that's all that's there, and that's, we don't have any we have not got any other requests from anybody else other than the seniors and North Fork.
Yes, Mr. Marco?
I'm looking out here and I see, Bayonne High School.
Yes, I said that.
The high school doesn't, this is going to,
Well, it's North Fork High
Right,
School
okay.
now.
okay, cool. Maybe-
It's for their grad night is what
Okay.
we do.
Bayonne High School, Bayonne Senior Citizens, Christmas parties, hospice, Norfolk Haven Partners.
That's the ones that match kids up with adults as.
Mentoring program.
Okay.
Kids involved.
Okay, and I don't remember when, but last year, this summer, maybe there was a sizable donation to a Dalton House as well. That one's not on here.
That is under the police department.
Okay.
Yeah, because
That is-
it's for victims of
Yeah,
child.
that was it was still a charitable. donation.
Center of Mental Health and Dolphin House the police department pays for those donations. And we do donate to those because we use those services.
Okay, so it's item 144244 under law enforcement.
It is.
Yeah, so we have. Yeah, that amount is different.
300 for the Center for Mental Health and 500 for Dolphin.
Right, yeah, that's budgeted. I thought we gave them $3,000 this year.
Yeah. Wouldn't be.
We gave, that was, the money that we gave was for the victims advocates.
Which is something different.
That's a different program. That's not a donation. That is a funding.
Where would that be?
That is.
It could be under victim advocate in the police department.
Sorry,
It's part of the bail grant.
It's what it's.
Yep.
Yeah, I apologize for doing this now. Dave's remark from all this, is something that I never follow up on. And don't know when I might have that next chance. The IL fund or the?
No,
I'm not seeing anything.
Advocate. But right now we're doing the cell phones, that is under telephones. And $500 under dues, it's under dues and subscriptions for the contribution, our contribution to the failed grant.
1442.
Gotcha, thank you. Okay. That's still not 3,000. Maybe, Mr. Member.
No, in the past, we gave more, this budget season, we only have the phones and the 500 because they got more, of a grant this year for 2023.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
22 is true.
Anything else on admin?
Neil wrote that grant and got more money from them.
All right, well, if nothing's on admin, then let's go to the next one.
I said, wait, let's show us. So that total is 4,675, and that's just fluid. You're saying you're not getting, people. Is it a number of people that, the same people that you give to every year? And so say if some other nonprofit wanted to submit an application for some of those funds, they couldn't do it because it's closed?
They could have, but it is closed now.
Okay.
It's open through September.
And how do those other nonprofits know about this funding? or money?
Any nonprofit, generally, whoever's chasing their funding knows where to get, where the funding is available. And they have their deadlines and they chase those
Okay.
funding opportunities if they choose.
Yes, Ms. Rose.
If I may, I would just add as well that, I mean, like with anything, we say the initial application period closes in September with the building of the final first preliminary budget. But like with anyone else, if there was something that came up or they had an ask, they can always come to the board and ask. And if it's something that the board supported and made the decision, then our question then would be, how will we fund that within the budget? And we can always modify that to include other nonprofits that have us.
Okay, well then let's move on to the next one, which is building, general fund building. So my question on this, as far as the building inspector goes, have we calculated in that maybe we'll have a shared building inspector?
That is what, yes, Mayor, that is what we were working off of, but if we don't get moving on an updated code, that's not going to happen.
I know, I'm working on it.
City council is not ready to begin, until they have something to review. So,
Anything else more? Yeah. Marco?
What is our status with Shums Coda? Are we gonna continue that contract? Is this based on that?
This is not based on Jim's contract. This is based on what our anticipated cost is going to be to participate with the joint building efficiency.
Okay. That's what you guys saying about. Sorry, I missed the joke.
Well, the joke is
Sorry,
that
I was trying to read while you.
Yeah.
I heard, yeah.
the joke is I have to get my comments put together.
Okay.
Usually goes and get improved.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So that's the joke.
Yeah, Dan's email, I guess this weekend was instructive, I think totally correct. And it's something that I had a concern about previously regarding the state necessity to adopt more strict energy codes based on when we change our code adoption. So as of 2023, I think July, if we do not have codes adopted already, basically we get bumped up into a more strict set of energy use codes, which just makes all of our other problems.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say worse because in a broader sense, it helps, having more strict energy codes is a good thing in the end, but it just makes our housing problem and our cost of living problem and all those other problems worse. So yeah, if we can
Expedite this. And it will definitely get done before June of 2020.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. Now, I want to say honestly, now that we're through this, I have been spending an inordinate amount of time on the budget. So now that this is kind of going, I can turn my focus back to that. But I have to say that it's sad that I have picked up on these problems that are in there and then I'm having to do this. So I'm going to be, pretty rudimentary and ask someone else do some of the research to get the right ones, but I intend to do it. Because I spoke up and said I was not happy with the quality.
If you would like help, doing the research, let me know.
Okay.
I appreciate your attention to detail in all of this and the immense amount of effort that you've been putting forth across all of your subcommittees. Maybe you're a superstar. Please don't bring yourself out.
Right.
Any help? reach out to us.
Will do. I appreciate all that. Thank you.
All right, so with nothing on building, then let's go to public safety, which is, we've already done public safety. Have we not, unless we want to look at something else we haven't looked at before? Yes,
We haven't put a stake in the ground to decide what we mean by honoring the previous income of back the badge, whether that's percentage or whether that's a dollar amount. We need to make that decision, because what's happening is every year we're getting more tax increases in sales tax. And we haven't really decided, like, are we staying at 182,000? We let it climb up. Or are we staying at 1%, which allows it to climb up? And that's a policy decision that this board needs to make.
okay,
And we haven't made that.
all right, so we can put that policy decision, probably not on this agenda, or Thursday's agenda, but the one after. Okay, can do. Yeah,
Scary.
While we're doing broad policy proposals, I think it would, and this is apropos to our salary discussion previously. I think it would be prudent to have a policy of some format. I don't know if a resolution or ordinance would be appropriate, that indicates that we will not hire an individual to fill 2 full-time positions in the future, because I think it's hasn't worked out well for various reasons and across various times. My understanding of Dave Weber's not here tonight, but my understanding is that when Dave served on his previous board, there was somebody who was the police chief was also the public works.
That's correct.
Right. So I don't remember who that was, but he said it was a giant mess and it didn't work. And I think that there are a couple of reasons for that, which I'd like to get into as a matter of policy. So if I mean, we should put that on there.
well, maybe we can have the personnel committee look at that after they finish with this whole administration thing and then move on.
Yeah, this
there.
is kind of a beyond that. It's more like an overarching.
Right, but that, exactly, the personnel committee can look at it, draft us something, and we can look at it. Yeah, Mr. Stelter?
I'd like to just point out that for 18 years, our town manager and our public works director were one and the same person. And it seemed to have worked out really well. So, and that came about because the previous town manager was fired and they told the public works director that he was dead. And they never gave him a dime more for it. It was tough. We had problems with it too, but I mean, with enough, I don't know, we were a smaller town at that time. Maybe that's why it worked,
Well,
but it can work.
the other thing, if we have some horrific economic downturn,
Correct.
we may have to do that. And so setting a policy that's ironclad, that doesn't allow for something else to happen.
And maybe a resolution would be appropriate.
So
I
again,
agree with
this-
the idea.
yeah, but it doesn't have to be in the next 3 months. It can happen.
So I think, yeah, January is probably.
All right. Hey,
Never mind.
Okay.
Come up later.
all right, so we're at our general fund, public safety, yes.
Thank you.
Patrick?
Just while we're on that subject, I just want some clarification of that 900,000 from the Paonia sales tax and then 1 cent that, could someone explain that to me, like succinctly, how one of the cent of the 3 cents goes to the police and then part of it, like a third goes to the admin streets and parks? How does that work?
It's an allocation. You basically, we say, here's our sales tax. We're
Correct.
gonna take this much and put it here, and this much and put it here, and this much and put
What
it
are
here.
those donations to police, to administration and then to streets and parks? And is there any way to change that, or is that at the state level, like we cannot change that? That
It's
is,
us.
I don't know if that was included in the, when they passed.
like, we can't take that 1% of the police budget and put it in
No,
anything, like,
no, that was part of the voter.
okay, that's all I'm asking.
Okay.
It cannot be reallocated for it.
No, not the 0.8.
No, not the point, the 1%. Yeah,
So, the town gets 3% sales tax. 1% has to go to capital improvement. The other 2%. The other 2% goes to the general fund. The general fund is, admin, buildings, parks, streets. So when, back a while ago, it was requested that we build our budget into departments. And so those departments are those funds. So what we do is, we allocate that 2% where it's needed. But we also assigned certain revenue to certain departments so that we could treat those departments as a business. So that each department is its own business with its own assigned revenue. Yes, those can be moved around if necessary. But if you move it somewhere else, then you're gonna have to find more revenue to fund that department that you're taking it from, that it was assigned to when that happened back.
but I think Christine's question also is, so police are getting 1% of that.
Right.
And I think this then gets tied back to badge, is that when back the badge passed, they said funding for the police department. Am I wrong?
Yes.
Okay, then I will shut up right now.
So the police department received approximately 1% of the budget at one time. When Back the Badge went through the second time and was approved, it was not in the budget, in the actual ballot language, but was stipulated in all of the municipalities that participated and at the county level that Back the Badge funds were to supplement the police department budget, not to replace the police department budget. So we couldn't say, great, we raised 0.08%. Now we're getting $300,000 in Back the Badge, so we can take 300,000 from our gen fund and use it somewhere else. Can't do that. That was the sales pitch to the community. So what wasn't clear at the time was, does the police department continue to receive the 1% that the town of Paonia has been budgeting, which 1% of our sales tax goes up every year because our sales taxes have gone up? Or are we bottoming out at what our 1% is the year that Back the Badge went in? So the year that Back the Badge passed, it was approximately 180 some, yes.
Sorry, man, this is the discussion that we're gonna have.
Right, this is the policy discussion.
Right, so-
Yes, but I was explaining what,
we,
thank you.
No, we're not scared to answer Christine's.
If I could please finish, thank you.
yeah, sorry.
So the answer is then what they're talking about is that no, right now the budget you're looking at is not 1% to the police department plus Back the Badge. It's less than 1%. It's at the 180, it's over the 180.
185,000, but it is.
And there is some additional that are increased.
It's not a full
1%. Exactly. Thank you so much for that.
All right, back to public safety. Anything else you want to add?
I was, with that in mind, I was gonna ask Cindy if she could show us more of the drop down in the next budget. So we see the county that is separated by the 0.8 cents, because right now sales tax county is lumped. I'd like to be able to see what is the Back the Badge percentage or the Back the Badge amount being budgeted of the 410,000 in the 2023 budget versus the county tax, because I don't quite understand that we get tax revenue from the county, two pennies, we get
It's a formula
A formula.
that they're.
But is all that going to PD or is some of that county tax
Right
going to some
now,
other general fund?
The county tax, which includes back the badge, was assigned as PD revenue when we split it up, so that's one of the two, what was funding the
Okay.
police department. And so that, that's why the majority of it, if we needed it somewhere else, we could potentially allocate off of there. But if we did that, then we're gonna have to go back and review what we're gonna cut out and not do for the police
Yeah,
department.
okay. So I just think it'd be very instructive to be able to see how much
Break
the
it out
point
into
is.
states and see the
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, all right.
It's on that, that sheet, it's, back to the.
Yes.
Mr. Tracy,
It seems like a good question for the Public Safety Committee to discuss and make recommendations to the board. So we'll be meeting on the 18th at 3:00.
all right, well, and then again, if you want to bring a recommendation to the 24th to 27th
Yeah,
meeting,
yeah.
then that would work.
When are you meeting again? I'm sorry.
18th.
Thank you.
At 3:00 here at Town Hall.
All right, anything else on public safety? All right, seeing none, let's move on to parks. Anything we need to address in the parks?
I just need a refresher on the 34,000 that was in this budget that's highlighted under
That was
revenue.
that grant for the, Canyon motion.
Oh, okay,
And
it's been
done.
spent. Okay, thank you.
And at this time, I don't have any new grants.
Anything else on parks? All right,
Projects, where are there specific projects or is that our capital?
There is specific projects. There is the stage improvement. That's necessary. There is the playground. Upgrade has been mentioned by Sursa. The curbing and playground at, Lee's Park, which is Sursa, driven. The grass improvements at Town Park, partially Sursa driven, the bathroom upgrades. The hill stabilization, which is Sursa driven. And the cap, and shed, at Apple Valley. Those are, Sursa driven.
okay,
Thanks, Cindy.
What's the total line item those are under? I just,
That is the capital outlay for 49.
okay, thank you.
all right, moving on to general fund street. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just to comment in general, it would be helpful, I'm sure, to all the trustees to have a live version of the complete budget. I don't know if we can get it online, like a live version, but I'm working from an email copy from last week. And all these details are included in there, so it would be it's helped me understand a lot. And I really appreciate it.
All right, so general fund streets. Anything, anyone?
Hold on, let me get there.
Yep.
Same questions. What projects?
We're on streets,
Streets.
right?
Yeah.
Streets. So under streets itself is, under repairs and that's gonna be repairs and maintenance. The actual street projects is under street capital.
Yeah, so that's,
So, we have,
well, if you want to go to street capital and take a look at that.
Well, maybe we can go to capital and just do that all. at once.
Yeah, let's do that all at once. So we're not going to look at projects under streets because that's not right.
Just a quick question. Typically in the fall, Delta County has hot plant running and typically we pave a couple of roads in town. I wonder if there's anything happening there.
Yes.
Yes.
Niagara from Second to the, or from
I remember.
from Third Street through the intersection of Second Street has been overlaid with the use of the hot plant from Delta County today.
Yes, thank you for the new stop sign. That's much better, though the PD might want to go out. I've seen so many people run both those.
I ran it the other day.
I ran it the other day too.
So the board is aware on, since we are talking about that, we can discuss it again in our regular meeting, is that the police department has been monitoring that and stopping. They have not immediately begun issuing tickets because they are trying to give people a little bit of a heads up and a warning with any new sign that goes up in a small town that you're used to. It takes a minute to get used to that, clearly. But I will let them know because they do have up to 18 months to back ticket people, and since you both are on recording for having run that.
We're being recorded right now, so because we'll both be seeing the municipal judge. Yeah. Wonderful, yeah.
All right, let's go on to bridge.
So that is to, we need to overlay the bridge. It was planned to get done this year. We've had some additional costs that we're aware of. So I have upped it to the 125 from the 120,300 to the 125, and that is because of more information on what it's going to take to overlay that bridge and make the necessary repairs, and that is all that there is.
Yeah,
I don't want to belabor this hot plant thing, but SGM did a pretty extensive project on, what streets are red, really bad. Was Niagara one of the streets that they indicated was red? I don't have it red, but
I don't know. And you also, as far as the hot plant goes, it depends on what street actually needs, like overlaying Third at this point is ludicrous.
no,
because
I know that's not right.
I could look.
We,
Niagara is one of the, I don't know that it was flagged red, but it is a road that was deteriorating on the side because it has no curb or gutter. And was pretty serious. And also with the overlay, we're really limited in what we can do with the county based on an agreement stipulation they had through a court ruling many, many years ago on the amount of money that they can spend assisting a community directly so as to non-compete with private business.
All right, so let's move on to the capital, street capital. And so the 649 is the Fifth Street, Third and Grand intersection. What's the reconstruction?
That is Third Street. Starting
Oh, the
at
Third and Grand
Grand
intersection.
going towards the,
Okay.
that has been engineered. That's 7 years old already. And at that time, it was 1.2 million. It is estimated to do that section. Part of it has been done, the water line part has been done. So it would just be the sewer line, and then but this does not include the sewer line.
Well, so we paid the rent.
This,
Yeah.
and I would like to say that when the board is, this is going to be the fun part of doing that short-term, long-term capital planning and feasibility planning moving forward, because a lot of things are done as needed, but the larger picture isn't thought of. Like, a prime example is the open section on Second Street down by Maine, from where we just did the sewer work and things. The reason we didn't patch that was because we just replaced the sewer line and the water line was replaced. So do we want to pay $15,000 and patch that section? Well, we know we're going to need to rip that out in the near future to replace that section of water line. And so it really is starting to take those SGM and JDS hydro reports, like we've stated, putting them together, really having someone put all of those projects together and starting to plan this multi-level, not just all focus on a water project and then all of our focus shift to sewer. It's going to have, they're going to have to start layering these on top of each other so that when we're ripping up the street, we can fix those sections instead of ripping it up, fixing it, patching it, you know, ripping it out.
So with that in mind, I've been thinking about, I'd like to make a motion that we schedule a meeting to see exactly that. See everything projected, the SGM maps and this map. I don't know if that's physically, here I am doing a page. So, that's a motion. Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we have a special meeting to visually see SGM recommendations and the JDS recommendations, as well as Jeremiah's presentation on the water system.
Okay,
Well, there's also an asset inventory.
okay, so
Which one's that?
CMGS.
Oh, SGM.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, the asset inventory is SGM. All right, now, do we want to schedule that or do we just want to have that in the future someplace? Yes.
So trustee Smith didn't make it as a motion, and I know it doesn't have a second, but I wanted to make a suggestion before we go through that. And my suggestion would be that on the 13th agenda is your general contract engineer.
Decision?
Yeah, yes. And so my suggestion would be that you hold off on scheduling that meeting until you've appointed your general contract engineer. And this may be the documents that you could bring together from an engineering standpoint and look at and bring back to you. Because they have the wherewithal to know how to do that.
Ixnay on the ocean may.
All right, so we're back on street camera. Yes, Mr. Mark.
Yeah, going back to your excellent idea, by the way, but going back to your previous statement about doing coincidental work at the same time. I know that there was a discussion at the couldn't have been streets, had to be water sewer trash, most recently, where we were discussing the replacement of the water lines on Doris. But I don't see Doris as part of this streets capital fund.
It's sewer line.
Sorry, my mistake. Yeah, water was done
Yes.
2 years ago, last year. Okay, so is that like, can we get that on there, or can we make those projects coincidental? So that
We're
we-
going to pay the patch that.
Yes.
Sewer pays the patch, the road after it's done into the road to repair the sewer.
Okay, I'm not sure how
When sewer,
that floats, but yeah,
The process is that because the road is that section of road is not a road that needs repair and it's being dug up for the sewer line work. So the sewer department would pay for it. Now, if this is a situation where a section of the road needed to be repaired and it needed to be done, then it can and has been allocated between both funds. But this repair is not allocated between both funds.
okay, I'll buy that. Thanks.
Okay, anything else on streets?
I've got a question. There's a line there that calls for contract labor engineer. Is there another place where we have contract labor engineer? Expenditure, because it's blank. We don't have a budget for it.
That's where historically, that's how we've done all of our engineering, was based on if we knew what project needed to be engineered, and we would contract on a case by case, but I know that some is included in this budget, but we're primarily hoping to really rely heavily then on the town's general contract engineer.
Else? Yeah.
So I have a question. What budget pays for the contract engineer? Oh. Is that?
So we've lost our.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just find out, it's coming.
Oh, yeah.
We talked to you.
Yeah, I do. So when we finally choose our contract engineer and for paying that person, will it come out of various budgets depending on the project?
Yes,
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we.
sorry, Mayor. Okay. Completely rejecting process and speaking through.
Well,
I apologize.
let's move on to sidewalks special meeting.
Going out of line, but.
All right, street fund, sidewalk. Anything on sidewalk? Yeah. Richard?
We typically hire an engineer firm and do a sidewalk. It's a little down. We don't give a bang for a buck. And I was wondering if there's a way to capture Delta Montrose, you know, what the old technical college, whatever they call it, not technical college, the Rockies. Aren't they training people in cement finishing, things like that, where we could coordinate with them to have supervised students learning sidewalks are not rocket science. And it would be really nice to have some kind of a training program for people who are trying to learn concrete skills to come in and work on our sidewalks. It would certainly be a huge improvement, and I'd rather see more linear feet of sidewalks being done that way. So that's what I'd like to charge our administration to look at and next year to see if the technical college or the high school or some other educational entity that's trying to work with trades. Or maybe there's a federal program with the workforce services that's trying to teach trades. That we can fund that program with our sidewalk fund to get our sidewalks done, more linear feet of sidewalk than a contractor. A lot of the handicap entrances that we did along Third, that's a little more technical, but the other parts of the sidewalks. So that's one thing that bothers me, and I think a lot of people about the sidewalk fund. The other thing is eventually it would be really nice to see year by year which sidewalks got done. And maybe that's ours. Yeah. Yeah, it'd be nice to see that map again, so people can be reminded, because I have a total short-term memory loss. And I remember the handicap stuff, but I do not remember when we fixed other sidewalks, and so that would be really good.
Yeah.
I just want to follow up where that is located. It's in the audit from 2020. I actually printed it out and went and walked them the other day.
Thank you.
And which again is, I'm promoting the audit.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of information in there. And so I printed out the page or took a picture of it. And I walked it, and it really does look good. Yeah, so.
Okay, so what I would add to that as well is that there's been more even since then that have been done, individual sections, and it is the goal to have that information not only in on our GIS mapping as another layer on our online map that people will be able to look at, but Cindy did mention as well that she'll try to have that when she does the extras in the budget presentation. This is going to be really important for the board, especially moving forward into conversations next year, and is going to be one of the things I have on the task list to hand off. Is the fact that the $3 a month fee sunsets in 2024. And if the board wants to look at continuing that, modifying that, or bringing that back, you need to send it back to the voters in 2023.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to pass through grant. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just as a matter of discussion regarding sidewalks, our average block length is about 100 feet, right?
Depends on which way you're going.
Or like each, yeah, between the outs, like.
And each block is very.
Yeah, it's not regular.
It's not regular.
I'm trying to get like an estimate for, because the board voted to defer sidewalk maintenance until 2023. So I'm trying to get an idea of how much sidewalk we can expect to repair or replace in 2023. With our current budget, and it's coming up $30,000 a year. So we have 30,000 from last year. We will have another 30 at the end of this year, and that 90 is at the end of 2023.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So if we're 100 and most of our sidewalks are for 800 feet, square feet of sidewalk per side of street, right?
I don't know.
We've been doing one side of the street, not
Yeah,
both sides
right.
of the street.
Okay,
We're doing it where it's needed. I think Third Street was, Box Elder was the one that had the most sidewalk done on both sides.
Okay. And my understanding is that's what $30,000 buys. Is that?
It's about a block and a half.
Yeah.
And if you touch ups, then it
So
might.
the long one.
So it was, say 600 square feet. Block and a half.
3 square. They're 3 feet wide is the minimum. And the block, going, east-west on Third, that's 225 feet, I believe. But if you go east-west,
No, north south.
or north-south, yeah, east-west.
Yeah.
It's short. North south.
Yeah, $30,000, or no, yeah, $30,000 to cover, we're talking about 1,200 square feet.
Roughly.
$25 about, $25 a square foot. That sound right to you?
Well, it's ripping it up too. And the problem is that now we don't have a place to dispose of concrete. We used to take it to the gravel plant, and they would grind it up and make more concrete out of it. But that doesn't exist anymore. So now we have to truck it. I think it has to go to the landfill.
Yeah.
I don't think.
I don't know that. That would be a problem. Why don't we move on here?
I mean, we're at 5:30.
As I say, to give it to, so you're correct. It's part of the reason when you go out to the sewer plant and you look at the really big pile, you see really big chunks of concrete.
Yeah.
Because there have been times that instead of paying the cost to have it hauled off, we have placed it at the sewer plant on our property. Which we have utilized some of that from time to time and done some crushing and grinding of our own and used it to backfill in different locations. But it is exactly that. It's the laying of the concrete. It's also dealing with any root structure issues, trees, anything like that that are that come into play. So that, I mean, that $3 is that per person, that $33,000 is very helpful, but in the big picture of the amount of sidewalks we have in the town, it doesn't.
Well, I would point out that we've got many blocks that have no sidewalks on either side.
Right, and that sidewalk fund is only for repair. It is not.
It does not construct new
sidewalks.
And we have, in the future, I think you'll have more pedestrians on the sidewalks, and it's gonna have to happen. We're gonna have to somehow figure out how we're gonna fund that as well. And part of the why it costs so much is to mobilize all your equipment, get it here, start the project, and then you only do a block. It's like you're there, what, a week?
Yeah.
And then you gotta mobilize, demobilize, and that cost is high.
Right, and also
If
the
you come
cost
here
of.
for a month, it cuts that cost by a quarter.
All right, let's move through past the grant fund. There really isn't anything there unless somebody has a question on that. And then the next one is the Conservation Trust Fund. This is our lottery money. Questions on that?
Yeah, I was just gonna point out, that's where the several projects are.
Yeah.
Playground upgrades and the TP pad. What is that?
Pattern park.
Oh, that's for the.
Yeah, it looks gorgeous and we can put our umbrella up there now. Yay. All right, next is Capital Improvement Fund. This is where the big bucks are.
Just a quick aside, I saw the CML in Montrose tomorrow morning, 8 to 12. I can't attend, but they're doing ADAs on 5 sidewalk playgrounds. 80, and I don't know if we're sending anyone down there, if we can get that information, but if we're doing increases on the playgrounds, it should be as ADA applied as it possibly can.
Oh, yes, they are. We did have someone that was going to attend, but there was a death in the family, so they will not. But those ADA coordinated classes, they actually hold them about 6 times a year.
Okay.
And they do them all over. So, and I do believe actually that some of these are recorded and can be.
Right. It can-
So I think it's being important, with the ADA stuff for sure. I was thinking of kids in wheelchairs and stuff, it'd be nice if they can.
All right, Capital Improvement Fund. Okay, this is where the big bucks for projects are. Questions, comments?
I'm gonna catch up to myself.
24.
Yeah. Looking at that. So that's. Oh, and 1% of our town sales tax goes to this by law
Yeah,
or by whatever, somebody's law.
That was, I was talking to myself.
So I would like to, I'm always zoning in on reserves, so. Our budget is showing. Our current one was 492 and we're going into 599. So those are reserves we can spend.
Correct.
Okay.
That is reserved.
Okay.
And those reserves have been, part of them have already been allocated. It's stuff that has been allocated and we have not completed.
Okay, done the project, so
It will come off as we
it'll.
do the projects and then we're adding projects.
And the point of this fund, I'm sorry, speaking. So this fund needs to be, it's intended to be spent
Yes,
to get projects done.
exactly.
So,
This is actually, this is actually, purchasing things or repairing. Like this building falls into
Tangible.
this, but this is by, most of the purpose of this is to for buying equipment and tools and vehicles. That's what this fund funds, rather than it coming out of a department. This fund funds the purchase of new equipment, vehicles, etc. And it does also include repairing this, keeping this building repaired.
but nothing in sewer, trash or what?
Right, correct.
Okay. So do we need to make a decision about which one of these we
Well,
approve or?
no, I think this is in the budget. It's like, is there anything we want to add or take off?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at, you can see under, when we're talking about this building, and I know we've had lots of conversations about different things that could be done in this building, but things that we know need to be done are, there needs to be repaired to the, I don't think it's actually stucco, our wall, but kind of
Stucco, yeah.
pretend stucco. We have holes and things that, from animals and different things. Doing that repair, we want to do the permanent repair on the stucco and things at the town shop. So that we don't have wood or rags covering any of that, filling holes that are in the buildings, things like that. So that's where these funds come from. And while they are allocated to a specific item, those items can be shifted and changed as long as the dollar amount in the upcoming year. So you don't necessarily have to say, well, I'm pretty sure 5 of the toilets are gonna break, so let's do 5, part of it for plumbing. It can just be, this is what we have in those funds, and then as those projects come up, then depending on where they fall within a dollar amount, the administrator would bring that to the board in the future for decision making on that capital expenditure.
Anybody? Yeah.
So we're just talking about the administrators after this, I guess, right now. I'm looking at $80,000. For master plan, I see carpet, stucco, kitchen, interior doors, storage upstairs. I think that. See a total on that? Is that all?
That, we will do as much of that as we can for the 80,000.
Okay, I see. So that includes the master plan?
Yeah.
Okay, I see. So it's just selling the same line. Okay, so.
And it is in the order of, that the staff thinks that it's, that the priorities are master plan in the color thing and.
Okay, I did. So there's,
Research increase or up,
I understand, thank you. So upstairs is the over there, not the police, that's the police.
No, when we were discussing the upstairs, we continued for the last 2 years to discuss closing the upstairs area that's open to make that a usable office space instead of an open space. With the staffing changes and switching around that's happened, I don't know that is, it's remain at the bottom of the list.
Okay, that's my question. It's referencing this upstairs, not the police upstairs, because I remember I think it was the Cersa report had like a stairway that needed a railing, and like some work that had to happen upstairs for the police department.
Right,
So that's
Cersa,
not that.
no, Cersa's request was that they modify the pool, because we have an attic pull down staircase in the
Right.
police department.
Yeah.
And I'm working on the doodle for tours, you're welcome. It is an attic pull down, which is really not an appropriate method for accessing the evidence locker storage, things like that.
Okay. But that's not what we're talking about. What's kitchen?
The ongoing discussion about whether or not, because we don't use the kitchen, and in order to make the kitchen a functionable kitchen that could be rented out or utilized, it would need to be a commercial kitchen. And so continued conversation is the fact that the board doesn't actually have a area that they can meet. Executive session, prime example, that is actually soundproof and confidential. So there was discussion about enclosing that and making that a small boardroom, conference room that board members could use when they're working during the week, or if there were meetings, so that it's a usable space instead of just a unusable kitchen space.
Yeah, I kind of feel like having a usable kitchen space that can be utilized by our community is really nice. I know that we have a commercial kitchen space that we can rent. But especially for functions, you know, pancake breakfast guys, stuff like that, I think it's really good to have something that we can offer to them for free. And I know that the Smith Center has one as well, but that's completely different.
So that was what I was going to state, is that the Smith Center is owned by the town, and the town put money into updating and upgrading that into a commercial kitchen. The pancake breakfast doesn't actually utilize the kitchen in any capacity as a kitchen. All the pancake and things cooked are outside of the building. So
I'm saying that.
of course, up to the board, completely up to the board, but always considered administratively as unnecessary to have a commercial
Yeah.
kitchen.
I think we won't get to it, but just in general, what we can do to serve the public rather than ourselves. I don't think that we go into executive session frequently enough to merit the necessity of an additional room specifically for that.
Understood, it's just an example.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
All right, anything else? Yes.
I know it's pretty expensive to turn that space into a commercial kitchen, and one of the big things is ventilation. Right. Exactly. So I think at some point it might be nice if we could get an estimate of what it would take to make that a commercial kitchen. So we have some information to decide, are we out to lunch? No pun intended, in expecting that to be a commercial kitchen on our budget.
All right.
Oh, Thomas.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm assuming we're still capital improvement.
Yes, we are still
Okay.
in capital improvement.
Yeah, the same, so are they all the same number? No, 20, 50, 70, 20. We have, breakdown under public works that includes $90,000 in tools. Do we have a specific list of tools that we're going to be buying for $90,000?
It's just, that's one of the, it's shop repair, vehicles, toolboxes. It's all those things that we're gonna use that money towards, not,
Right, yeah, I'm seeing.
I don't have the specific breakdown until.
It looks like that was in the budget last year, Thomas. That's
Yeah,
in the 2022 budget and rolled over into 359.
okay, so yeah, that's kind of my question, I guess. Is what I'm seeing is a public works overall capital expenditure of $359,679. And I see shop repair, vehicle, tools, toolbox, water storage, doors, locks, and street overlay.
In the back.
Right. And I see $90,000 in the December 2022, which means, yeah, it indicates to me that it's already budgeted and it's a rollover. I don't know. I just like to see how this $359,000 is going to be allocated among those 8 categories.
That 90,000 that's under the December 13 was for those vehicles that we just got and paid for. It was actually 85,000 out of the 90,000. That balance will roll over into 23, and those items, as they are needed and we get the bids for them, will then come in front of you. And you'll know that it's gonna come out of that 350,000. But, until we get bids and such, or determine, which vehicles, that, is just a placeholder for those items.
So that $90,000 should be in the vehicles line rather than tools.
It's, they're not one in the same, they're not one in the same.
The yellow line doesn't relate to the green budget line we're looking at.
The green budget, is,
Seems like it should. Okay, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, just.
So I make a suggestion that we take a 10-minute break.
Oh, I think that would be a great idea. All right. Do you need a motion in a second and all the fun stuff?
I make a motion that we break for 10 minutes, return at 6 o'clock.
Second, all in favor?
Uh,
Buddy, why is nobody voting against it?
I know where I'm going.
Speaking at me, stand up, stand up.
Let me show you some. Sitting on a bench.
we- Because I thought they said they didn't want to do water, so I asked about.
When we get there, we can make that decision.
Why wouldn't, why aren't we?
Well, because it's these increases. Right.
well, it's going to get in the budget the way that it is here.
Maybe it just needs to be explained because I don't know how the increases were allocated. Until you can just explain it, then that would make sense. And then when big levers here. And every,
And it may change how we get there,
right,
but this is how much you have to have
right,
to make that a thing, to
exactly,
be able to do what
exactly,
is in here to do.
exactly. Yeah, okay. All right. Hello, I don't think I've ever met you before.
Oh, I'm Sally. And I live over in Silver. I've been there for a couple of years.
Really? Oh, my goodness.
So I occasionally,
All right, well,
but
let's
I'm not in payment time.
So you're about.
You know, yeah, for the holiday. You know, probably 2 or 3. Yeah.
All right, kids there.
Ready to bring it in.
Yeah.
That's where we're. I have love. Yeah. I see. That. And that are the only money. Yes. Yeah, but when you think about. On third, obviously, yeah. Oh, that's all, that's what you I don't know. Expectations for that, because I was still in high school, also wondered, there's no carry for when that there's thousands. And all over a year, that or to. No, what's he do? Oh, okay, 1 year is. Okay, well, it's not interesting, all right, well, that's all good. Yes, well, come up. And, I've never seen it with 5 cents. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so, building.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and sidewalks. Yeah. 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 Okay, well, nice to meet you. Good, I think like that, I went my dad. It is. Oh, okay. It's got that kind of like. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, you're good. Yeah. Let's go. Yeah. Okay. All right. So.
Is that control?
Yeah, the sentence goes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have to look at that. It really is.
Maybe start thinking about.
It just costs money. It really is. Commercial kitchens for less than $100,000.
Oh.
Including buying the building.
Oh, well, there we go. I think you're hired.
When was that?
Yes.
Thanks, I want to see this, find the. It's.
So-
As far as viewing everywhere there is.
Yes,
When's that?
she's working on a calendar. Corinne's doodling a doodle calendar to do. To take a tour.
It's just hard to wrangle everyone.
Yeah, I know, and you probably never get everybody.
No.
And then the straggler kind of never happens again because, it's so easy.
Well, let's try to get all the board members' availability and the department heads that need to be doing
Yes,
the tour of the
exactly.
different area.
Yeah, and you just get the,
I went to help a friend day before yesterday. And we were putting the swing set together and I went to pull. I found out I can't pull above my head. I cannot pull. Yeah.
both or one.
My left. When I tore last year.
Yeah, no, they don't feel very.
I can't pull them all. I went to pull those pieces together.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. And what we had to do is reconfigure. I had to hold it while he got. another
Yes.
ladder.
I had never.
And he had to go beat on it.
Oh my
I
gosh.
couldn't do it.
Yeah, and you didn't know.
I didn't know until I got
You hadn't done anything.
there. So I'm not doing anything on that.
Oh,
I've got motion,
mhm,
but I don't have whatever it is.
Yeah.
The full muscle,
right.
and I haven't done it. I wonder, there's gotta be some kind of a exercise. I can do.
Nice, like PT, like, yeah.
But I'll tell you, the pain was. It's on a ladder and it almost made me black out.
Well, my niece, who has CT scans, and she said, two lights first, this is the most complicated part of our body, as you well know. The other thing she said is, Aunt Paige, ladder. I see more people, old like you, that are coming in because they've broken their ankles. Don't you get on the ladder? I said, okay.
You know what my fault was? I tripped and put my arm out and rolled. I did it.
Oh, that's what did it. Oh, yes, you did. We're doing it right.
I did it.
Well, you kind of punched and rolled though, didn't you?
But I just caught so that I, I wasn't coming down on my side.
Yeah. It's so going in.
Yeah.
Mm.
7 months. 7 months of rehab.
Oh,
And I'm still in that. I don't think I'll ever be back.
they take the knife.
Well, they can't repair it. I've got arthritic.
Yeah, we need to trade you in. Trade you in on a young. I know, just get trained. And then you have a little, we get this bionic person, who still talks like this. It's all there. 27 years old. Yes.
25-year-old lot.
There you go, just bring transplant. All right, let's get going again, guys. All right, anything else on capital? Yes.
I just need an explanation of the 52,924 in the rightmost green column. I don't understand what that is associated with.
Public safety.
Okay, but the public safety has a vehicle listed.
Yes, that would be for a vehicle. That's a different vehicle than the administrative vehicle. This is a patrol vehicle to replace the one that we got from
Okay,
Delta. That's the 2000.
305.
okay, but there's enough money. You can get a vehicle, an electric UTV, and we can figure that for 52, or is this just the wish list under that amount? Thank you. Okay,
All right, anything else?
so do we have to do anything?
No.
When they figure out what they need, they'll come back to the board and
Okay,
you'll get the bid for the vehicle. The vehicle's gonna more than likely be the first choice.
yes.
And, or it is currently the first priority, because that one that we got from Delta is in bad shape and in need of.
And that's in that
some major
list.
That's in that list in the end.
And
Okay,
it's so when they get a vehicle picked out, then they'll bring it on to the board for
Thank you.
approval, but this is just, it's being.
placeholders.
Okay, so we're to water, sewer and trash. Do we want to do anything with this? I was thinking if Cindy could explain to us how the rate increases she has built in this work, it might be beneficial. Or if you want other things out of this, yeah.
Well, I think would be helpful for all of us to know exactly how the impact is on individuals, you know, the rate increases. In other words, how much is garbage going up for a household, how much is trash going up?
Right, yeah, yeah, and that's part of what I wanted. Yeah,
I would like to actually do this one backwards. I would like to review the expenses and see if there's any additions that you want, any additional projects that you want added to this budget. And then from there, we're going to then back into revenue, and that is, and that, I mean, we're just gonna back into the revenue.
all right, so let's look at revenue then. Is there any other? What?
You're looking at expenditure.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I used the wrong word.
So Madam Mayor, I was asked earlier about where to put this, so I wanted $10,000 as a placeholder for legal expenses to double check our water rights.
Thought you wanted, you say 10?
Yeah.
10,000, yeah. It may not be a lot, but I'll tell you what's scary.
You said 20.
Day 20.
You said 20 in the beginning of the meeting.
No, I thought
You didn't? Oh, I thought I heard you say 20. Okay, so sorry.
Here's what scares me. There's a lot of smart people out there, Las Vegas Water Authority, and people in Arizona, and people in California that want to grab whatever water rights they possibly can. I want to make sure that there's no loopholes. One of the things the JDS Hydro report said to us is that we should be double checking and making sure that we have solid water rights to our springs. And to me, that is really important. We've done nothing about that last year. So I'd like a $10,000 placeholder so that Nick can start work, our current lawyer can help us find a water attorney that can at least do a brief look at these and see if there's any landmines that might be preventing us from being able to hold on to those water rights.
Okay.
I'm thinking, it seems like there is quite a bit of information in the files, Corinne, correct me if I'm wrong, on water rights. There's a compilation, maybe not exhaustive, but quite a compilation already of water rights. Is that in one place?
There are, this is the issue we've had. We had this done, but it's been several years. And unfortunately, the final result hasn't been able to be located. We've gone through all of our archives upstairs and through the file, and following a pretty large record destruction. We can't find them. Now what I can tell you is that I'm happy to report is I did find 2 boxes that are labeled water and have a lot of information in it, but this is done in a way that is not organized. It's just a bunch of paper that's just thrown in these boxes. And so, yeah, and we've started to look through them. And so I do think it is a good idea to have it looked at again. I have lists, I have documents where it says these are your water rights and this is how many shares, but I don't have where that was reviewed and an analysis was done by an attorney in the past 35 years.
So I have gone through and gone to the records online from all the water and taken all our springs and gotten everything I could get off of those so that we have that. I have a document, I've given it to Corinne, and it's all PDFs as to the actual judgments on all of that, but it's not exhaustive. Again, there's stuff that's missing.
And what I would add, and I know for a fact Rick can back me up on this, one of the biggest issues I think that anybody has that's newer to the town springs is the fact that we tell you, you hear often that the town has rights to 30 plus springs and 27 of those springs are running. And then you go look and there's like 9 springs listed on the list. Well, the reason is because the spring sprung a spring. And so we call it something else, but it's actually all Gelwick, or it's all coming from one source. There's not actually 30 springs. There's only a few springs that have all these chutes that we have rights to that water because they come from that main source. And we've identified them as these other names because of that's when you hear things like, well, there's original and there's old original and because it's all the same spring. It's just where they're accessed in different locations. And so I think that especially moving forward with people at the town level, and it should have always been this way, that don't have that longevity and the continuity to know that. And I don't believe we have anyone on staff that knows all of that information anymore. You're going to want to get that shored up, have a map of it.
Yes.
I mean, the water map that you look in that's on the poster board in the office sometime that shows the springs and the placement of the water treatment plants and the lines isn't even accurate, because that was based on an update that they wanted to do that never got done. But it's looked at and referenced on a regular basis.
Yeah, smart.
So going back to how you opened up with this,
Yes.
you're saying that we have water rights studies that have been completed in the past, but just cannot be found?
Yes.
Do we know what firms may have done those for us? Were they done in-house?
We contacted, and the attorneys that did it have long since retired, and their requirement to retain any records for any work that they did for the town is well beyond, and they have no record. The only one that I was able to obtain was the one that I shared with you that was specific to Beaver Dam water. That was it.
It was last reviewed from 14 to 16.
But that wasn't a full exhaustive.
Okay, so I have a water priority, enterprise fund water preliminary priority list. I don't know when this was created. I last had it in 2021, so it was before then. And we have 17 items that are broken down as the trustee and JDS priorities versus not included in the JDS trustee list. The hire attorney to shore up water spring storage rights is item number 5, and this was priority 1, indicated that it was targeted for 1 to 3 years based on the key at the top of this thing. Anybody else remember this document?
Yes.
Or what happened to
I
it?
do kind of remember that.
I
Glad that
remember
they're
that
controlled.
was because I made it.
Yeah,
I just want to see what you're looking at.
Yeah, sorry,
See if I remember it.
this thing,
Yes.
Yeah.
I do see that.
this. Yeah, okay. Were funds allocated at that time for these purposes?
No, board has never allocated funds for that specific attorney. For a water rights attorney and to begin that project.
That's why, or at least made a suggestion, or other things we want. at least $10,000.
Why don't you make that into a motion, Dave, and let's go ahead and vote on
I'd like to make the motion, allocate $10,000 in water funds, pay for the preliminary water rates study springs to ensure the water rates to the springs water.
it. $10,000 already to the from the water fund for the water rights. Okay, do I have a second?
Second,
All right, discussion.
I guess this is part of a different.
Okay.
different.
Did you have something to say, Mr. Selfie?
well, not pertaining to this specific thing. I've got another addition to the budget.
Okay.
And my only, I agree that we need to do this, but that means we may have to.
Yeah.
This is quite a juggling we have to do, but I think it's important and I hope 10,000 cut it. I don't know. But it's a start.
All right. Any other discussion from the
Yeah.
board?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks. So this type of project is the kind of thing that's really good for grant money, for securing and expanding our water rights. If it would be possible to leverage this into something that is more productive, because honestly, I don't think $10,000 at our attorney's fees is going to get us very far. Whereas if we can leverage state funds or federal funds to secure our rights rather than research them, it may be more productive, something to consider. And I want to make sure that we're all aware of the other shoe here that's dropping. What we're coming to is another rate hike.
Okay, well, let's just let's
I know.
make sure this is
As
just on.
before we get ahead of ourselves, recognize that we will have to pay for all of this.
Yep. Okay, anything from the public on the water rights? Yes.
In a way, before you designate the lawyer and get him started on, it almost seems like it could be a subset of the water commission to just like get another people together to collate the information before you get it to the lawyer. So it's sort of that much further along, something like that.
Ms. Ferguson?
What I was going to add is that talking about grants, that it may be we're going to look at an admin grant. Admin grants go to $25,000 and have very minimal requirements tied to them. It really, ultimately, it's a letter and a plan on how you plan to use that. You submit it to your DOLA representative. Your DOLA representative then takes that to the grant committee and advocates for your admin grant. And they tend to be pretty easy to receive. The admin grant is what paid for JDS, Hydros. All of the work we received from JDS, minus some of the additions that we made, all that initial work was through an admin.
Okay, yes.
Main thing I want to do is I want to put a placeholder in there. You may not need to use it, but I want to put a placeholder in there so there will be some momentum on this, because I've been on board for 2 years since this suggestion's been made, and we've done nothing about
Okay,
it. And I'm scared.
All right.
About water rights.
anything else?
I just was gonna say, I'm, so per that conversation, I'm gonna put it in, as grant funds, and, put it in as an expense so that we know that we're gonna get grant funds. We're either gonna go get grant funds to pay for it, or we're going to, leverage it somehow to do it, and I'm gonna put it in at 25,000.
Okay, so, but we have a motion now for $10,000 water fund. $10,000 out of the expenses of water. Yeah,
I want to be clear about this.
I know it's a
I make a
placeholder.
motion as a board member that we allocate $10,000 without grants in expenditures.
Yes,
And what I heard from our finance director is that she's going to put 25,000 as a grant fund, which doesn't put it in. when you read these
no,
things.
it goes into her.
$10,000 is in the water fund, pay for legal expenses, for checking our water.
Yes, Mr. Stelter?
That was my point as well, sorry.
Okay, Mr. Mark.
Trustee.
So I'm looking at the, right now, water fund expenditures, line 60, 50, 20 on page 27 of our packet, legal and engineering services. We have $16,000 allocated for current 2023 budget. That be the appropriate place for this?
That would be an appropriate place
Yeah,
to-
all right. Okay, so we have a motion in a second. Let's get this motion dealt with.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, now, Cindy.
So are you saying that, are you telling me that you want me to find in? So right now we're at having to increase rates to backfill the revenue. Do you want me to increase rates enough to make up to include that 10,000?
We're gonna have that discussion after we're done with the expenditures. So right now, this motion was to increase expenditures for $10,000.
Okay.
All right, now, Mr. Stelter, you said you wanted something?
It's I have a question on, we need to get gauging stations on every one of our springs. And is that included in the repairs and maintenance? That's something that absolutely has to be done before we can turn around and get the water moratorium up. So I don't know if we have to do an RFP, but we perhaps need a placeholder or something so that we can get that particular thing done.
Do we have any idea how much that's gonna cost?
That's beyond my expertise.
I cannot give you a dollar amount. I can tell you that according to SGM and JDS, they said it's not cheap because it requires some satellite. You can't, the springs are so difficult to access on that you
Can't
have to
easily
go
go.
a little satelliting, and because of location, that's not easy everywhere. It's going to require a lot of work. Now, there is potential that some of that could be done through, it may be eligible through ARPA. We would have to look and see if it falls within some, I was looking at some of our categories and they're just so lightly defined in the document that I have. I couldn't guarantee that.
Right, I can't, my knowledge part of it is just like, I don't know that that's covered in ARPA.
Well, there's rehab of wells and development of sources to, and things like that. So it would really just, right, we would have to find out if we're getting real, loosey-goosey with their definitions.
Yeah.
One of the things is that's a gold-plated system. We can set one up that's set up with a cell phone type system that would go and we'd collect it from here. It would dial in every hour, give every 10 minutes. It measures the water, and then once an hour, the cell phone dials up the town, or once a day, and gives all that information.
Yeah, we have that on the spring we share with the Mesa.
And it's cheaper,
Yes.
way cheaper. And we don't have to go as far as getting the most expensive measuring device. We could set up, we've got lots of technical expertise here. We could build our own measuring devices that connect to the cell phone. Because the bad thing is springs are spread apart. You might have to have 3 or 4 cell phone systems up there, but it would work. And we don't have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it.
Yes.
Thomas, Christina, first.
Yeah.
So this is something that the advisory water committee has discussed since it was put together. And something that, water sewer trash, Dave and Jeremiah have discussed on a couple occasions. The long and short of it is we do have an estimate from JDS as part of the draft study, and it is because I was a huge advocate for it going in, collecting like data collection in general. I think is really important, but specifically spring measurement came up as. Here we are. Yeah, like second for us. But over the years, intervening years, I've been told that as long as we have a couple of like really good ones that we know, we can correlate the rest of the spring flows pretty closely with those because those sources match pretty well. So because we have some, it's not quite as urgent as I believed it to be initially. I'm not saying that we should or shouldn't do it at this point or to what scale. Just giving some background as far as what we've gone through in the past and what my own thoughts on the matter. But
So did you have a number that was in the report, Thomas?
maybe I don't know where we find it, but I can
Is it something
see.
your
I can look
mind?
for it.
I don't know if that was part of this presentation,
He might know though. He should know which ones are needed.
but we need a number to plug in here so that Cindy can do her magic with all of this.
And that's if what Thomas just said may not need to meter, we need to know which ones are metered and it's important to meter. And you extrapolate from the ones that are currently being metered to the ones that aren't. That's,
And do we?
sounds like you were told yes by JDS for that.
It's my understanding on my discussions with the rest of the committee and Jeremiah that extrapolations are generally pretty accurate. So looking at
Yes.
study recommendations.
Ms. Ferguson.
I know he's looking for the number.
He's looking, but while he's looking,
My suggestion, what I was going to let the board know is that right now you have $18,500 in the spring line in the water budget for springs. And whether or not that then becomes a priority, I don't know that you're gonna be able to get all of that information and be able to include it in this budget. So it very well may be something that is going to have to be addressed after you complete this budget as far as which springs, especially with the cost. But it may again be another one of those things you might want to look at your contract engineer. Because my assumption would be that the engineering firms you're looking at are going to be ones that are well versed in water. And I can tell you that a few of them are. We do have 4 or 5.
Okay, so the estimate that we had, this is in 2021. This is from page 24 of the draft ADS hydro study, section 4.5.1, accurate monitoring of raw water inflows and raw water spillage. Paragraph about what they're doing. They estimate partial plume installations at $7,500 each. For a total of $45,000 and V-notch weirs, $500 each for a total of $5,500. So it looks like we're getting 11 V-notch weirs and 45 divided by 7,500 partial plumes.
so that's a chunk of change.
Yeah, so.
And that doesn't include.
$50,000.
And it does, yeah.
But if we could get a source water grant, I don't know if this would fall under it, but we're not sure our source water. And that's in the,
Raw water has money. You can go for raw water, and that is an area that it really has to be specific to monitoring and protecting the raw water. So that is somewhere you can look at for grants, not only for that, but for the cleanup, the spring cleanup. Raw water.
Yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't, spring maintenance been historically been an item on town budgets.
I believe it's,
I apologize.
We have a repair and
right,
maintenance.
that was on screen.
As I recall, it was like $30,000 or $40,000 a year that had been dedicated to spring maintenance over the past, like the past 5 years,
Approximately 30,000.
30,000.
that, I know particular line item.
You don't know.
No.
Last year we had 30,000. It's in repairs and maintenance.
Okay, yeah, it's a subset.
Spring repairs, 60 sections, fund 60, type 50, account 22. Spring repair, $30,000 allocated 2022. I don't know how much was done.
Okay, Ms. Knutson?
Well, I noticed in looking at this budget that last year we assumed we were going to have 227,000 repairs. We came in at 161. We're kind of replicating that figure in here too, with the prediction of 160,000 repairs. I was curious how much we spent in repairs the previous couple of years. that caused us to think it was 227, because this number is 160. I don't know whether that's a low ball number or whether that's a high ball number based on previous years' experience.
And is that just pipe repair or is that spring repair or what repair is that? It's all repair. So how many pipe repairs have we done?
And it included 45,000 for the meter upgrades.
Oh, right.
I'm not sure what line you're talking about here, Dave.
I'm looking at 60-50-22. And it says 227,750 is what we budgeted last year. 161 or 162 ballpark is what we're thinking we're gonna end up spending this year, although we're at 15 right now.
Right.
And then 160 is the prediction for next year. And I think there's an additional 27 coming in for grants. Is that, am I reading that?
Is that our revenues not coming as predicted? So we don't have, we can't spend what we budgeted because we don't, the revenue's not coming in as predicted.
Yes.
I'm sorry, the water revenue is less than we anticipated
Significantly.
this year.
Significant. If you look at, well, we'll get to revenue in a minute.
Okay, so, what I'm looking at is that we budgeted 227,000, spent 150 or 115, I guess, thus, far. And next year target is 160. Okay, that's basically.
So can we leave expenditures, because it seems like the big elephant in the room is what are the revenues? So I heard something that was pretty disturbing to me when we looked at the last thing, because we had a fairly technical report on how to set water rates. And the gist of that report that I walked away with is that we are very vulnerable if we expect our money to come in based on usage. And that we need to start working toward 75% of the money that comes in is the base fee, 25%. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think that's what that report told us. It was a pretty extensive model that we had that came in that used a lot of data, that SGM, the JDS Hydro, they put in a whole bunch of plugged in figures for water usage over the years. And if I'm reading this right, we're going backwards from that. We're actually proposing that we have more dependence on usage. And the main message they told us was do not depend on water usage for your water income, because people will start conserving and then you have no income.
So how have you calculated the rate increase? Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to say what you just said.
Yeah.
We can't summarize what I heard, I guess is what I'd like to do. You feel uncomfortable weighting our water rates for use versus base rate because of the advice of this you're talking about PIPOC, RCAC. Okay. And the risk is that people will begin to conserve water and reduce our income. Okay. That sounds like a good thing to me. If people begin to conserve water because of our pricing structure,
right,
that's a win. If we have to deal with less money because people are using less water, that's a good problem in my opinion. I know it creates difficult choices, but what we is part of a much larger conversation.
It is.
But I think that sounds good. We'll close this door.
Yeah.
Thomas, to get back, because Cindy and I had this conversation about usage. And she had visited with somebody. The thing about us conserving is when we don't have a reservoir, conserved water is going into, it's going down the river.
Exactly.
So our conservation doesn't help us necessarily because it's not in the bank. That water is just spilled. So it's kind of not, it doesn't meet the normal thing because we don't have a reservoir to put what isn't used into. We have a straw. And there's little things coming out of the straw, but a lot of it's continuing downstream. So in terms of money, I don't think that's necessarily, or in terms of water, I don't think that fits our system.
Mr. Stelter?
My point with that is if we conserve, say, 1 million gallons a month, we can sell that 1 million gallons in taps in a month. And first of all, we get a tap fee. And second of all, our tap fees are probably too low. And we've decided that we can't sell any water taps because we don't have the water. First of all, we need good information. And I think that should be a priority, that we get good information from our springs, our output, and then what we waste at this point now. We'd have an idea how we can go. And we really need September, October is our time when we're always short of water. And if we can do nothing else, we put the partial flumes in and set up a thing where we have to go up there on the 4-wheeler once a week and gather the data that way. That's a way we can do that. But if we conserve, that's water that we can go ahead and sell taps.
We're kind of getting into the larger conversation that I mentioned before, and that is our conversation about growth and the size of town, shape of town, and how many water taps we want to support, right? So I think that's way beyond the scope right
That's
now.
the master plan.
But regarding water use conservation and specifically billing, I think that it would be good to get Trustee Weber's input, because he's been updating a model that he created, I guess, back when Lotus 1, 2, 3 was a thing. So a while back, but he's updated it with new information. And I believe that that's the basis of some of these numbers right now, as far as pricing. I don't know if they've been incorporated or not. But it would be really good, because I don't understand it. He would be able to explain it, but to get his take on it to answer some of your questions. Beyond that, I personally think that it would be a good idea to pursue the concept of monetizing our unused water, because I understand, I agree that the conservation can only do so much. And my take on it is that what would be good is to have seasonal conservation, so that everybody's aware that there are times when we need to conserve and can respond. That needs to happen with good information, education information, and be a little bit more flexible in needs as far as how we treat our water as a resource. But in those boom years, those boom times when water is flowing, just filling like 300 gallons a minute out of this thing, where we can't possibly use it up, you know? It would be good if we could monetize that overflow. And the only way that I have heard of to do that is was brought up by JDS, I think, in one of their discussions, where you sell it as irrigation water. Because we have the right to use that water. If we leave it untreated and either use the existing ditch systems and distribution systems, and it's a huge hairy mess as far as licensing and getting it, how it works, I'm sure. But there are municipalities that do this, and it could even out that the finances, the financial side of it, while allowing people to put water to use in a way like, I only have town water. I don't have irrigation water. I would love to be able to use untreated water for my outdoor garden and my indoor, all my things. So
Yes.
that would be great, right? It's impossible,
Impossible.
but it's not impossible forever. So just as a notion, we don't have any maturity to this idea, but I think that it would be good long-term planning to pursue full utilization of our water resources in whatever capacity we can.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Being an old guy, I don't know, I want to get clear on what expertise we're using. So I'd like to know the name of the group that came in. I don't remember. The guys that had that huge spreadsheet. Is that the same person you're talking about?
That's,
So we're talking about
RCAC.
apples and oranges.
yeah, RCAC is who you're talking about. Tie clock. I'm talking about,
Okay.
like, is
So say that
James-
again. Our.
Rural.
Rural Colorado.
Water.
It's a
That's- I
private-
think we're working
yeah, it's
something.
private.
Yeah, but
Okay,
this
so that
is our water stuff.
Was tie.
Yeah.
The person you're talking about is.
It's like either James Plumstarns or his
Yeah.
coworker there
Yeah.
at JDS, I believe was.
And this was just an idea that was just thrown out in part of
It's-
that. whole-
It was something that they brought up as a possibility for us.
Yeah, but again, we'd have to create.
I just wanted to get it clear so I wasn't
Oh.
missing some data and I don't know anything about it.
Put our water in.
This isn't how this works.
All right, so anyhow, Mr. Stellar.
Colorado water law, there's a differentiation between domestic water rights and irrigation rights. And you can't intermix the two at all. And unless we change Colorado water law, which basically hasn't changed since about the 1890s, we're not going to be able to do that.
All right,
And that's the biggest downfall for that entirely. Colorado water law is very specific on what kind of rights. Should we use raw water for irrigation? We will lose those rights for domestic water.
I would check that one out with the engineer.
I was on the CML executive board and we went through a number of iterations of this. And this was really an important thing for Flagler and on the eastern slope. That when they lost their water rights with Kansas sued Colorado because they had all these deep wells. And they were sucking the water out of the ground. Well, it dropped the Arkansas River? No. It dropped the Platte, it dropped the Platte. And so Nebraska and Kansas sued and they won in federal court. And they had to close every one of those farms. Those farms are dust bowls.
and I would agree, because when I did my research on all our springs, it's all for domestic water. None of it is for irrigation water. Some of those springs we share, and the shared portion of that goes for agricultural water, not. All right, so anyhow, yeah, we have what? 23 minutes left.
Yeah, that's fine. I was just gonna agree and provide, I'd give it a little bit more on that, but that's.
So Cindy, would you like to explain how you came up with the rate increases and what they are?
So I back into, I did a $3 base rate increase. And then, yes, that,
Page 44.
that will, show you the increases. But I did a $3 base rate increase, and then I set it up to chart. Right now, we're doing, the first 1,000 at no charge. I set it up, this is set up to charge the 1,000 gallons, and then we are breaking.
Okay, so, and how much are we charging for that 1,000 gallons? That was free.
What, $2.40
Flat. Or per gallon.
per 1,000
Per
gallons.
thousand. So
Okay,
it's
so-
$2.40 for that too.
Yeah,
So we get
so it's 240 times the number of units, because right now it's at no charge. It's just taking that to,
240 times.
those units,
If I use 500,
these units right here, I can't remember.
so I just am I'm slow on this thing. So that means if we are charging for the first 1,000 gallons, they're gonna give you 40 per
Per
1,000.
thousand. So
So-
then they would pay $2.40. Addition, it would be $2.40 additional to what they're paying
Yeah.
now, plus the $3 base rate.
So at minimum, everyone will get $5.40 increase. Okay,
And, but Dave is working on, where we can take more, in higher
usage rate.
The higher users,
Yeah.
will increase it at that end, versus this way, but right now I have it, in here as a $3 increase and charging for that 1,000 gallons. Dave is working on a model that will increase the other end. The only problem is if people stop using, we don't have the revenue, we can't do these projects.
So here's my question for the board, is that, we got 20 minutes left. Do we want to touch on sewer and garbage, or do we want to continue on water?
I'm gonna say we need to touch on sewer and trash.
So you can present something on the 13th.
Yeah.
Okay.
So before moving on, I'm looking at page 44 of our packet. And I'm seeing an increase of $3 base rate for water. From $3 to $25 increase in base rate sewer charges, and $8 to $15 increase in trash charges. Am I reading that correctly?
That is correct.
Okay.
So the standard in-town residential will go up to $128 base rate per month with usage on top of that.
So that's sewer and trash and water.
That is correct.
Right. Yeah, Mr. Knudsen?
Well, you know, the way we look at salaries, we look at what other towns do, and I think what would help all of us look at is what has happened to other towns too, and what are they charging for water, sewer, trash? In Delta County, I mean, just simple, find out what Cedar Ridge, what Hotchkiss, what Delta is. I'd like to see that just so I can compare, but where do we stand versus other towns? Because we do that with salaries, why not find out what other towns are doing too? Because I think that it sounds really big, like 128, that's like over a 20% increase in what we're trying to tell our citizens. And so, yeah, I'll launch Charlie on this.
Well, and it depends on the system too. I mean, Delta's system is entirely different from ours, and they have a water district, and there are several entities that take part in that water district. So they're not comparable to us. Cedar Edge gets their water from the Mesa through pipelines off the reservoirs on the Mesa. So that's a different system too. If we're going to look at this, maybe Crawford and Hotchkiss are the closest things we come to as far as that. But then the number of springs that Hotchkiss is supporting is like 2 or 3. They have very few springs, and I have no idea what's going on in Crawford.
Crawford has one line coming down the hill. I think it's one source.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got a very complex system that you're going to compare to a water district and Grand Mesa reservoirs. It's a different thing. Yes, Mr. Mark.
So in the past 5 years, at every opportunity, I've seen this board, this town, raise water rates, actually, I take it back, trash and sewer stayed the last time. Right, yeah, thanks, Michelle. So I have seen increases on the order of 20% or so happen many times, sometimes more than one a year. There'll be rate changes, always increases. And I get the sense just by the nature of the discussion that it's exciting to some people to do this. And I just want to say it makes me sick. Beyond that, it's unsustainable. We can't keep this up at this rate. Imagine this was a debt that increased by 20% every year, that you have to pay a principal that increases by 20% every year, and you have no choice about whether you pay it or not, that is completely unsustainable. And I haven't done the math on it, but we, like, in a matter of years, we will be in the thousands of dollars.
To address it to the audience.
I'm sorry. Oh, imagine it's the mayor.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be in the order of thousands of dollars within, I don't know how many years. It would be great to see this extrapolated. And I know that there are realities about the system and what has to happen in order for people to continue to use it safely. I feel like this process has not been taken seriously, and that the amount of quantity of services hasn't really changed significantly in that time. And I can't support this budget with this process.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a comment about something I think is really out of line. I heard a comment that accused us as board members about enjoying rate increases, and I would like that to be retracted by the person who gave it to us, because there's no way that that's who I'm coming from. There was an implication that we were enjoying doing this, and that is not.
I
I would like that to be retracted.
didn't name anybody.
Said this board.
None of us enjoy this.
Your comments implied that.
I feel that there's a certain sense of excitement in dealing with large.
By whom?
By who, sir?
That's what I want retracted.
I'm not gonna do that.
Oh, then-
So-
Mr. Bartlett, you need to control your mouth and what comes out of it.
Excuse me?
Yes, sir.
You're way out of order. Way out of order.
I would leave that to the board to vote on that or not.
I'd like to make a motion that the implication that we are enjoying increases in essential.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Yes.
We're wasting time.
Discussion, yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Martin, you have.
All it's necessary for anybody, if you don't enjoy that, simply say don't. That's okay. That's all necessary. And if
Nobody enjoys this.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to send to Mr. Markle for his comments about the board enjoying raising rates. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
man,
Aye. I agree with the vote. The vote is aye.
It was a tie. Trustee Valentine voted aye.
Okay. That
Yes, yes, I did.
Motion
All right, thank you, Mr. Valentine. You are essential. Mr. Mark.
I don't think he was, because it has to be a 2/3 majority, and we have 3 of 5.
So that.
It's not 2/3, and you can't vote.
I can, okay.
So
Yeah.
He voted.
The center line,
So we have
13 minutes left to discuss this. Yes.
I would like to ask if, so we need this much money to do these projects. Where, if we don't increase rates, where do you want to get the revenue from?
And Ms. Ferguson?
What I want to add to this conversation is that I don't disagree that when you look at the last 5 years only, you see significant increases. But
Excuse me, you do not have the floor.
if you look further back, and this has been brought up before, the issue is when you look to the 20 years prior, and there were, I believe, 3 rate increases of less than $5 over a 20-year period of time. And so the issue is now we're in a situation where everything is different. I mean, even if you only think about the last 2 years going into the 3rd year since 2020, the cost of everything astronomically has gone up. And while the number of people and population in this community has not grown significantly, and the services may not have specifically changed, the requirements that are brought upon and placed on this town, the unfunded mandates that are placed on the town that are required to do, the costs are astronomical. And it is unsustainable. It's unsustainable for the community just as much as it's unsustainable. So my question is a little bit bigger than Cindy's, which is where do you want the money to come from? It's what services, what things do you offer from the water system that you want to stop offering in order to not raise the rates? What services do you want to cut? It's the same in any fund. If you don't want to fund your parks, what services do you want to cut? What parks do you want to close? What changes do you want to make? This is an unfortunate, terrible reality.
And what I'd like to say is, we are the trustees that are wearing this as an albatross on our backs because it hasn't been done. Things haven't been done that they needed to be done, and the water rates haven't matched what we know now had to be fixed. We have 20,000 streets of sewer, 20,000 feet of sewer that have to be replaced before they collapse. It's about, based on the Doris has 171 feet that is budgeted for $100,000 in the sewer fund. All that we have to fix is 3.5 million, and we cannot use general fund money to do it. It is an enterprise, and I want to make sure everyone understands the only way you can fund enterprise is through user fees, loans, which you have to pay back, or if we can get grants to fix stuff. That's all we have. So one of the things we have to deal with for this budget, but I want to make a motion that, again, for another meeting, we have not had a special meeting to talk about the future. We need a 5-year plan, and we can't wait for the master plan gets done to do that. We need a 5-year plan because rates have to go up because we have to clean up these sewers. I live where those sewers, if it breaks, it's a mess and it costs more. So this is the raw, rude truth of where we are, and we get to have the fun job of saying we're not kicking the can down anymore. But people, it's going to cost. There's no way around it because we have to get it from users. And so I'd like to make a motion. Do we have a motion on the table already? I'd like to make a motion for a special meeting which follows the meeting where we are going to see the overlays, SGM. I would like another meeting to follow that meeting where we have all that information, we have numbers, and we start doing a 5-year plan, which includes how much are we charging for services? Do we want to run 2 water plants? That's one way to cut some money, is to only have 1 water plant. I'm just throwing that out. We lose springs, and have that. Okay, I make a motion that we have a special meeting following the previously meeting to talk about a 5-year plan.
Okay, do I have a second? Second. Further discussion from the board? Yes, Ms. Jim.
The meeting was withdrawn because you were waiting until you hired an engineer.
Well,
But I would think it would be great to task the contract engineer with this being part of their first task.
And this is something that I would like to remind the board too, that when Todd came here and did his water rate analysis, he said, this is what you need to charge to not raise your rates in 10 years and in 20 years, or in 5 years. And the board chose not to do that. The board chose the one of the cheapest options. And so here we are faced with that now.
Exactly as you predicted.
Exactly as I predicted. Exactly, yes.
Mayor Becker, I apologize, and this is a little bit off topic, but I would ask that you please direct people in the audience or an individual in the audience to stop sitting there saying about how everything that is happening at this moment is because of my mismanagement in the last 3 years, because I will not continue to sit in meetings and have comments being made about me that are completely unfair and inaccurate.
And I would say, if you do not have the floor, you do not have the right to speak. If you choose to speak, then you may be removed from the meeting. Now, Mr. Martin.
Time for y'all to say. Like RTAC, my recollection of that process is a little different. I recall that the second least expensive option was chosen, maybe the third. But my understanding of that process was the big complex spreadsheet that he developed, that he created, was the complete water system, with the only exclusion being the relining of the 2 million gallon tank. And it was that rate increase of $5 across the board for all base rates last year. I think it must have been 21. Was intended to fund all of those capital projects, with the exception of the 2 million gallon relining.
All right, we have 5 minutes.
If the revenue predictions had come in as he had predicted, then we would not be in the position that we're in, but it did not, and therefore we have to go back, tear his data apart and figure out where we missed. That is not possible at this moment, so we need to move forward and pass that.
Thank you for that.
Is he being tasked to look at that for
We
us?
are.
And then one last thing, RCAC was gonna do a sewer rate
They
study.
are working on that.
And will we see that before the end of this budget session, or?
That is the plan. If
Okay.
we have time to. get
Yeah,
with
we
her
might have
to-
time to do it, but let's remember that we can do a budget amendment in 2023. We are not locked into what we do here. We just have to have something that we have to submit. And I don't know that that's been done very much, but there's 2 things I want to point out. We have not been watching the budget as trustees. We have not talked about the actual budget to actuals in the 3 or 4 agenda packets that we had. It was clearly showing that we were not meeting what we needed to meet. I think we have to take way more time during the year. And I want Cindy to alert us when she sees something bad. We have to do much more of that than we did. And that's why I wanted this special meeting, because I would say we talked about budget to actual in our agenda packets, maybe an hour and a half this year. And a lot of it was me whining as to how are we paying for these budgets that didn't have any money in them. And I know now what they are. It's coming mostly out of salaries that aren't being spent. But I'm asking Cindy to be much more vocal about when I say, how are we paying for it? Tell us where we are. So this is a little bit of a come to you know who. We have not been taking this role as seriously as we need to throughout the year. So we're in a bad place, and some of it is we dropped the ball. To some extent, didn't ask the right questions. So yeah, it's where we are. And we have some soul searching and some hard work to do. And we need to decide, maybe that's the 5-year plan. We have to do water projects to keep everything running. We're getting grants. But the RCAC was, Thomas, if I remember right, they were looking he predicted it out to 100 years. And then it was chosen to go with the 50 years instead. Oh, I thought it went 50. Did it go to 20? But he also, I think he included in there all the water lines that need to be done in that 100 years. Luckily, when you look at the SGM report, there are a lot of water lines that are in good shape, and they are for a long time. Sewer, sewer's bad. And the only way we can pay for sewer is out of fees or grants. I don't know if you can get grants for replacing sewers. I don't. You can. So, and that's the 5-year plan I'd like us to talk about. But I feel very at a loss because I haven't seen Jeremiah's presentation. We haven't all looked at SGM. I was looking at it today to see what it's costing through this Doris, what it's going to cost us to fix all the sewer. And so we just as a group have not been paying attention to things in a unified way so that we all know what everybody else knows. So that engineering meeting and the follow-up, it's not going to fix this very minute, but it is so important for us as the elected officials. People are relying on us to do it. So we got some homework to do.
Mayor, do we need to extend the meeting? I don't know if we have time on
would ask that you extend at least a half an hour so that we can finish sewer and trash, so that I have someone, so I can present it on Friday.
So.
Second.
All in favor?
I,
To close? All right. that motion carries. All right, let's move on to sewer. To sewer and trash.
into the sewer.
Yeah.
So in sewer, I do have 100,000 for a line that we know is is just short of collapsing. Right now, if we budget to repair it for the 100,000, we can potentially avoid some costs. If we wait until it collapses, then we have environmental issues that we may be dealing with, and the dollar amount's gonna tick up significantly. So, other than normal repairs, I don't have anything budgeted except for the one line that we already know is on the verge of collapse.
And can you point out the line where we were
Yeah,
seeing that
please.
100,000?
Right here.
70,
It's
51, 70.
it's 1985 or 1751, 70. It's this line right here.
And I wanted to add another thing that has been done, which was to reduce how much water sewer fund is paying for admin
Significantly reduced.
salaries to try to keep more money in here.
Mary,
Yes.
can you please ask the audience to stop the,
Do we need to have a vote from the board to remove this person from the group?
No.
Yes.
I'm just gonna say this, all right, is that these are difficult conversations as it is. And I realize that everyone is afforded a voice and should have that voice. And I have no problem with people sharing their opinion and their information and their thoughts on the direction that things are going in moving forward. But continued comments in the public setting, whether they are directed at board members or staff members, are not appropriate. And staff members shouldn't have to sit and put up with them any more than the board does. If a board member is being attacked by the public, they would call it out and ask that it stop. And I think staff should be shown the same respect.
Yes, Mr. Marvel.
For my part, I hear background noise, but I can't hear anything distinct.
I can.
So I don't know if my
Yeah,
fellow board
Mr.
members.
Well, the fact that I'm hearing a defect is a real advantage right now, because I've heard nothing. That's because I'm half deaf, so.
So the question is, do we allow the members of the public to continue to deride our town and our staff, our town administrator and our staff during a public meeting when they do not have the floor?
No, we don't.
I haven't heard any such derision. Personal.
We have a current problem.
Yes, Mr. Silver.
The audience members have been warned a number of times and they continue. So at this point, I move that we remove 3 audience members from this meeting.
Do I have a second? All right, that motion dies for lack of a second. Ma'am, please show a little courtesy, just a little.
I had my hand raised.
I apologize for that. And if you raise your hand again, and you have a comment on a motion that is on the floor that the public has a right to make a comment on, then I will have your comment. We do not have a motion on the floor. All right, let us move on to sewer. Yes, Mr. Mark.
Fund 70, type 51, account 70. Looking at sewer replacement. I assume this is the project that we're talking about for $100,000. This is stores.
That is correct.
And we have just raised the base rate on sewer, correct?
That's all we have. That's on option that we currently.
Any other comments? Yes.
And we are, on that note, we are, the proposal is to increase the, standby, water standby pays the same as, a tap. Sewer was paying less, for a standby than they were for a tap. This increase includes bringing that base rate up equal to the standby equal to a tap, in-town tap.
Could you describe the standby? What it is?
Standby is a tap that has been sold but is not currently active.
And just, can we raise the the standby fees that people are currently paying on old water that they have never used? I'm thinking about Peabody.
No, it's in our contract, we can't raise theirs.
Are they paying a standby fee?
$2.
Per tap? Oh, yeah, oh, come on, Arch Minerals. Anyway,
I heard you say that we raised sewer rates.
No.
It's,
Yes.
it's in the budget
Proposed.
to raise sewer rate checks.
Thanks.
It is in here.
Yeah.
Unless you can give me another source of revenue to pay for these expenses. Yes, there is an increase also in water or in sewer and also in trash.
Shall we, is there anything else on sewer?
And did I miss any projects that anybody wants included in sewer?
I have one I would love. That automatic electric trash cleaner.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is about $40,000, I've heard. Oh my gosh, those guys, what they're having to do.
It was ridiculous.
Very unhelpful. All right, yes, Mr. Martin.
Do we have any sewer equipment that we could sell? I know that there's a lot of stuff down there at the sewer plant. And we have a list of vehicles and equipment, the bottom, the last pages here, page 47 and 48. We have a couple cars, trucks, etc., and they are. Thought there was a designation as to what, yeah. Yeah, public works, PD, public works, et cetera. And a lot of this stuff is having seen it out of commission. I know that there's the generator down there at the sewer plant, which I think we paid $10,000 or $20,000 for about 4 years ago and has never been put in service. If we could recoup some funds out of that, that could be a place where we could save some money.
Yeah.
Or make some money.
That particular generator may not be used, but if we have a power outage, we have to have electricity for the sewer plant or it completely shuts down. It's where we're in trouble is the aeration, especially in the summer. We have to have aeration, and that's what that particular piece of equipment.
We don't have that. I mean, it's been 4 years and it's been sitting there.
It's
So
been sitting there 20 years. but
it needs, it's not in service. It's not.
All right, let's not do that. Yes.
We plan to do another surplus and do another surplus sale, but it's really impossible when you're doing an auction to budget for what you're going to get from that auction.
And the other part is, I mean, we can't feed that into our enterprise funds.
You can if they were purchased through that enterprise.
But it doesn't look like there's anything on this list that was purchased for the enterprise.
So, and I would state that just because of vehicle, and that's where it gets a little dicey. I mean, you may have a list of equipment in front of you and it says that it's a vehicle that's used by Public Works, but it doesn't mean Public Works funds bought it. It just means that's where it's been allocated to, but when it comes to the sale, we have to track the fund purchase so that the money goes back to that.
So it could be sewer
It
water.
could, but it might not. And again, when you're trying to budget on history, and known factors, we don't tend to do that based on auctions.
I apologize for my worthless idea. It can't be implemented because we don't know where these things come from. And it's the value so low that we can't even figure out what it might be. That's the best I can come up with.
It's remarkable. Thank you.
Sarcasm is not appropriate. Thank you. All right. Yes,
You know, I was trying to look at allocations as an avenue on this, but the thing that scares me is when I look at allocations and I look at who is charged the water, who is charged the sewer and all those kind of things. I don't see a lot of wiggle room. That bothers me. I mean, we could cheat by saying, oh, well, this office staff person shouldn't be charged the water so much, or the town administrator shouldn't be charged the water. The problem is, I think we squeeze those allocations down to almost an unrealistic level, and to do anything else on allocations, so that's off the table.
and I would also say, I mean, Thomas Wells made a really good point in the Merchant Herald this month. Is that, again, these enterprise funds have to be run by businesses, and it is against the Tabor regulations not to charge manpower and to offer that for free. That is illegal. So we have to allocate. We should probably be allocating actually what it costs.
Thank
I just don't see, that's the thing that I'm struggling with. I'm really, I looked through this budget, I made a bunch of notes on it and stuff. I was trying to figure out how can we get around this? I just don't see it. And I don't enjoy it either.
No, this is a heartrending process, especially if you look at the people. I know several women who are living on $750 a month Social Security, and they can't afford this kind of stuff.
Well, maybe as part of our bigger discussion is, I know that, I don't know, when those people can get some help.
Well, we do have the LEAP. We have the LEAP. If you qualify for LEAP, you get reductions on your water, and maybe we increase that.
But we don't see that money.
Yes, it comes back from the state.
Does it come back?
It does not.
No, it does not.
It does not.
It does
We
not.
just.
We have to take it as a
just single revenue, town revenue.
Yep.
We do not get revenue from the state. We are
A
just,
certain amount of money and then that paid the bill.
But that's for LEAP. What we're saying, if you qualify, if you qualify for LEAP, then we give you a reduction. In water. You don't have to do all the background check. Certifying that they're all.
And the point is, we lose revenue, but those people are able to survive.
Exactly.
So I think we're gonna have to talk about that as well,
Right.
because we,
Yes.
because if we do that, what she's saying is if we do that, we're gonna have to increase the other people's rates to make up for the revenue that we're losing on.
But the truth of the matter is, when we've tracked this in the past, and there was a report done on how much that actually costs us. Yeah, $1,200.
Oh.
Something like that. So it really, I mean, we can make that up for nickels and dimes, really. So increasing that and making that go forward is.
Yes, we can do that. We're gonna have to, we have to take that from somewhere to be able to give them.
But $1,000, that's our.
Yes, we can do.
I guess I would just like to ask Thomas, who's very upset. Do you have some ideas of, let's talk rationally, maybe not tonight, about what we can do other than what we are by law, are allowed to do.
It's intractable. I don't think that there's a solution, and there are a lot of people in the same boat, but I want you guys to listen to the conversation that you're having as you're talking about people's survival.
I know.
Yes.
But we have to survive as a town and offer water. And here's the other thing to keep in mind. If the people that have loans on our enterprise funds see that we're not meeting, they can come in and tell us what we're gonna pay.
And they will make it.
And it will be ugly. So there is this, it's like there's a lawyer behind there waiting to file a lawsuit. It's not a lawyer, but we're in a really terrible position. And again, we are the ones bearing the position because of things in the past. And we're gonna have to sit up straight and look at every avenue we can.
Fortunately, to remind everybody too, that when Ty did that, he stated clearly that our rates should be at $85. Base rate should be at $85 a month.
For,
the base rate for
for
water.
water.
That is what it should be.
Yep.
And if we continue down the road we've done for the last few years and rely on not funding these, then our debtors are going to come in, they are gonna tell us what our rates are, and they are gonna tell us our rates will be $5 more.
Okay,
Yes.
My recollection of that number was that was if we wanted to fund 100% of everything water spike, if we wanted a slam dunk for all of our expenses only in base rate, that's what it costs.
I honestly have to read that study
Yeah, I
again.
don't
And is that study on the webpage?
That is
Right.
partial option.
Because I have a copy of it, but we should probably make it available again
Yeah.
for public to read it too. Because I was public then, and it was really an in-depth hard to follow study, honestly, and I need to read it again.
And it was truly horrifying.
Yeah.
Again, the same thing.
Right, but the fact that we are $500,000 short is horrific.
Yeah.
In that,
Do something.
and I don't understand that.
Or we stop giving, selling water to people.
Well,
mean,
I want to find out if that's
what-
real. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Mr.
We've
Stelter.
deferred maintenance on water system and sewer system for almost 100 years. And basically, it's all come up and jumped up and bit us in the ass. And
Yeah.
we need to take care of this at some point. We're not raising the rates enough to really do a lot. Right now, we're just basically putting Band-Aids on it. And these are cut arteries. And we need to think about that. Next year's budget's going to be horrific too, but there's no other choice.
And the other thing is, again, we've had unfunded state mandates that say you have to do this and you have to do this and you have to do this, and they never give us the money to do that. And a small system like this with very few users and high costs, it hurts a lot. Yes, Mr. Martin.
If we have no other choice, then we can all go home.
Why?
What are we talking about? If
It's
if we have no choice in this matter, why
We
are
don't.
we even discussing it?
It's a very narrow choice.
Then I move that we adjourn.
I disagree. I mean, Thomas, we are now, we were elected to do this. We
Okay,
have.
my
to
soul,
make
your
very
board
hard
is-
decisions.
So motion on the.
I'm not leaving.
Okay, I mean, like, we're wasting our time.
I'm gonna work harder to figure out. how to
We still have that motion about the special meeting following the meeting on the 5-year plan, except we have no meeting to follow.
Well, how about if we preface it with the meeting that we will schedule at the October 13th meeting? Can that work?
Let's just schedule.
Let's leave my motion. How about we park my motion for the October 13th meeting? Because we are gonna hear
All
from
right,
the,
then we'll
we're gonna
we'll
choose-
address it at the October.
I guess, because we're gonna choose an engineer at that meeting.
Right, so we can,
And-
we'll talk about a 5-year
Yeah.
plan then after, we'll put it on the agenda after the choice of the engineer. Okay, yes.
Now the revenue isn't, we don't have particular wiggle room in the revenue. But the point of this meeting is to make sure that all the projects and items that you want included in this budget are included in this budget. And that is what this meeting is about, is making sure that I have all items that you want in here so that I can have you a draft budget in the packet on Friday.
So do we need to go back to this water fund to look at these budgets? That the projects in the water fund?
We did talk about.
Yeah, we
So
did.
we're good there. So the only project left is sewer.
Sewer and trash.
And then sewer is the single one is the sewer replacement on Dorset. Is that correct? Is that all we have to choose from? Is just the 100,000 that's being set aside for Doris?
That is what, and then I've added the trash collector.
Yeah.
If
Oh,
I can figure out where to get the
oh, right.
revenue.
The two part-time.
No, this is the trash.
The
cleaner.
electric trash cleaner, so those guys are doing it. Well, no, they're actually
Oh, no.
pulling stuff out. If you haven't been to the sewer plant, you gotta go and see what's in the dumpster at the very end.
Literally by hand. Great.
I don't know where that revenue is going to come from at this point, but I have put it in here
And I'm
and
not
I'll see what we can.
I don't
what
remember
I
if it
can-
was 40 or 60,000.
Yeah. I'm putting in for 40.
And honestly, the only other place to gain funds is reducing the fixed cost. That's the only other wiggle room we have. And a lot of that is staffing, but you can't run these plants unless you have staff. I mean, we're in, we're in a really hard place.
Yeah, Mr.
I
Kington?
had one thought as I was waiting for the budget. We are allowed to loan money to the utilities from the general fund. Stay with me for a minute. Respond. We said that some of the reserves in the utilities, we had to set aside in order to help fund these grants because we have matching funds for the grants. What if we said the matching funds from the grants will be done by a loan from the general fund? I know this is scary, but I'm just trying to come up with some kind of alternative. So in other words, rather than trying to build reserves in our utility funds so that we can match grants, which we don't even know are coming in, why couldn't we say, okay, look, if these grants come in and we need money, let's do a loan from the general fund. So I know that's squirrely. I know that's a difficult thing, but that's the only thing I could think of as I went through this whole budget that could give us some kind of an inkling of a little bit of a wiggle room, was to allow the possibility of considering that instead of building the reserves in the hopes that we would get these grants.
Okay, well.
That's all I want to say.
Here's my thing, is that you can't write a grant with the hope that you're gonna give a loan to beat those matching funds. Yeah,
We would make a motion to fund the grant matching with a loan from the general fund. So that way we would have the money in the budget if we needed it. That's the only thing I can think of. So I just want to throw that on the table for people to consider. But that's one of the things we've done in the utility funds. Is we've increased the reserves so that we can match possible grant funds. And I know it's scary, but we're in very difficult positions. So I'm just trying to be creative. What else can we do? Well, that's one thing we could do.
I think we need to investigate that and make sure that that's a reality.
And I'm wondering if rather than trying to make that motion now.
Oh, no, I'm not making.
No, I don't mean this.
The idea.
I mean, even during this budget session for 2023 and bring that up in 2023 if needed as a budget amendment.
I would agree with that completely.
Because we're working in the dark right now on grants
Exactly.
and the matching funds go with federal grants.
Well, no, I mean, DOLA funds have matching funds too. I know almost any grant you get is gonna have matching. Yes.
I would like to find a way to bring them back into this. meeting.
I couldn't hear you. Yeah. Well, that's one dollar thing. Yes, yeah, we can make loans from the general.
Yeah. Right, yeah. And one thing about the loan, I mean, it has to be paid back.
Yes, yeah.
And it would have, and I think it has to be paid back from the fund. It was.
Yeah, the utility fund does have to pay it back, it's just like any other loan. I'm just trying to figure out.
Right, but that's just everybody understands that. Oh, and there's something else I want us to talk about, and I think everybody needs, not tonight, but
As temporary chair, I suppose,
You are.
since we're waiting on additional board members and our town manager, I was wondering if anybody would like to take a short break.
Sure.
To make sure they're included in the discussion.
But if we take even a 5-minute break, we'll need to extend the meeting.
Is it till 7:30?
Yeah, right now.
yeah, so we should.
We can.
I mean, we continue the meeting for another 20 minutes.
There's a second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Reluctantly.
20 minutes, we're going until 8 or 7:50. Yeah. 7:50. We need to.
I need to walk.
All right,
All right, we have 7 minutes again,
Well,
people.
we
we
just.
just took a vote in your absence, sorry. Pick up the chair since you walked out. and thought that you might want to, not adjourn, recess. And in order to do that, we wanted to extend the meeting. So right now our meeting is extended until 7:50.
And we want to take a short break.
Yeah. I suppose we're going to be very define short.
Okay, I move that we adjourn for, sorry, I move that we recess for 2 minutes.
2 minutes?
2 minutes. 2 minutes.
All right.
Stretch.
Set my watch.
That's 26.
Our agreement.
Thanks.
Fifteen seconds. All right, we're back in session. What? 1, 2, 3. Oh, John is gone. Let me go get Dave.
Argument by his ear.
They're gone. Dave.
I'm here.
All right. All right. Where were we? Cindy, you wanted,
I need to know if there's anything else that we're missing in sewer. Thanks. Okay. Brad,
okay, so trash,
that has, increases, from a single trash can would go to 25, it would be charging me between $25 and $70, which is the 3-yard dumpster. But is the increase built into this to pay for, and the only project I currently have is the additional replacing some dumpsters that are broken to the point where they can't, they can no longer be repaired. And so we can't, they're getting to the point where we're not going to be able to use them. So they need to replace them. Other that is AB 5270.
Thank you. Let's see that. Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do. 3,600.
So
Thank
it's
you.
only $3,600. The rest of it is fixed costs. And they that does include the additional positions for throwing trash.
Cindy, I have a question. So the 3-yard dumpsters, the 2-yard and the 3-yard dumpsters, what are Roberts and J&J actually charging to dump those right now? Because I believe it was significantly more than the town was charging, and we didn't even come up to where they were.
That's correct. We haven't pulled numbers to see if they've increased rates over the last 12-month period. The last time we did was still last year's budget. So I couldn't tell you what that cost is right now, but we could look into that.
Yeah, it seems to me that if we're going to increase our.
I think we're about half of what Robert is charging. If they had to get Robert to do it instead, if the town got out of trash. I vote for that. We can get rid of trash. That is an option. Then we can, if we do that, then we would have to reallocate salaries that are now going to trash. And other areas are gonna have to pick that up. That's a whole different nightmare for me, but that's okay. We can do it. That is an option, is to get rid of trash, and then everybody can hire whoever they want. Roberts, Double J. But it is two to three times what we're charging.
So what about increasing those rates? And how much revenue does that bring in?
That is the 83,000 per the increases that I have in here.
Okay, so if we
That is-
we might get some more revenue. Yes, Mr. Tilton.
One of the things about if we go to a service, we have to contract somebody. So everybody in town is contracted because there's no way that
Right.
we can get 3 or 4 help. And it'll be a nightmare to administer at that point.
Right, so.
And we're talking $70 a month for Double J.
Exactly, yeah, Mr. Markle.
I'm unfamiliar with the Double J Roberts Enterprises charges. Are we talking about dumpsters or
Yeah.
individual cans? Individual.
No, I'm talking about the 3 yard.
dumpsters were
dump. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We went to everyone.
Yes.
Yeah,
And Mayor, this is why I asked earlier about comparing towns. I didn't say about the systems. I talked about what does someone in Hotchkiss pay for water, sewer, trash? What does someone in Cedar Ridge pay for water, sewer, trash? What does someone in Crawford pay for trash? But, you know, that's the comparison I was trying to make, because if I understand it right, at least Hotchkiss, they're paying at least double. Well, here's someone who knows.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
My water sewer trash bill is average is about $147 a month. And here's another, a different household size. My household is household of 7.
And even when my youngest college daughter was at home, my bill was $7.
And that's water, sewer, trash?
Yes.
For 3 people a month.
We're contracted out through Double J, so we have a poly cart and they do the entire town.
So what do you pay for trash?
I don't know what it is individually without looking at my bill, but I know my bill stays right at about $97 every month.
Mine's $57 a month, and that's for one,
It's 57. for one
$57
tub.
a month for one.
Which holds a lot.
And mine's been.
It's 55 gallons, 60 gallons.
So you pay $57 for a tote.
And it has to be picked up by the truck.
Right.
Yes.
And we can't do that in the alleys. That means that everybody would have to bring their trash to the curb.
Do not want trash to the
Well,
curb.
We don't have, because cars are parked there. I mean, it becomes a nightmare.
Yes, so yeah, having trash go away is just not a possibility, but we can get some more revenues out of trash.
So look at these 3, you're focusing on the 2.
Yeah, 2 yard or 3 yard dumpsters. And I think we should bring our rates up. If we're half what Double J and stuff are charging for the 2 yard and 3 yard dumpsters.
Don't we rent the dumpsters?
No,
The business or whoever has the dumpster, they have to buy their own.
Mayor?
Yeah.
If I may, it's a good place to look at being comparable in the rates, but you're talking about 75 in comparison to 780
that's the question.
trash charges.
Right. That is worth it. Yeah, Mr. Martin.
Yeah, I think that it's for practice to justify our pricing based on commercial enterprises. They have a completely different set of rules that they have to follow and different targets. They're for profit, so presumably they have owners or investors that are seeing returns on that money. Whereas our operation should be operated essentially as a nonprofit or operated at cost, which I know what we're doing is trying to operate at cost, but using commercial prices as justification for our operations increasing their prices. It doesn't carry any water. So it's a false comparison.
All right. All right, anything else on sewer?
Right.
Is there any other items? Committee or other know that that's not included in here that we need to add?
Mr. Nathan.
Well, I know there's a lot of. I was in a small town and we converted to a trash truck that actually dumped itself. This is back in the 80s. And you know, it's scary. I don't know why Sursa isn't getting on our case about people riding around in a truck. Because that's pretty primitive and it's asking for an injury. And it's a lot of workers' comp exposure. I don't think it's a bad idea if we look long range planning, what Paige is talking about here, and over the long run. Right, in the long run, we're gonna continue the trash service. We need to have a truck that dumps into the truck and not have people jumping off the truck, checking the can. and all that.
No,
What are you in an alley?
yeah,
That works, but we still don't have a line in the budget for replacement of that garbage truck. And one of those was about 300 grand.
but doesn't our garbage truck, when we bought it, wasn't that a capability that was included with it?
It is.
Yeah, so
Our truck can do it. We don't have the totes and we're not building a reserve to replace totes for a truck down the line.
And the thing is about that is now we have to do it on the street. You can't set it on the boulevard. It has to be in the street. And that takes up parking. And in just about the entire town, it's got parking on every single street.
We had totes in Cheyenne in our alley. And they are not.
some places don't have alleys, no,
Yeah.
and the alleys are so narrow.
They're too narrow.
No, ours were as narrower than these, honestly.
Then we have
14 feet as a minimum, and most of our alleys don't reach that.
Yeah, I don't want, those alleys, that's what makes this town wonderful, is that we don't have trash cans out front. These alleys are why they were put there, so people's trash is out of our view. And I just cannot stomach the thought of trash cans out front,
Well, it wouldn't,
personally.
Right.
we'd have
Even totes.
we'd have to have no parking on one side of the street on the day of collection.
Correct.
And
So we're kind
if
of.
you want, I mean, we can't do it. It's
Yeah.
literally impossible. It never happened.
All right.
We'll make a narrower truck someday.
Come by. All right, so what else do you need from us tonight, Cindy? What else do you need from us tonight?
Do you, anything else that is not in this budget that you all want in this budget? Because this is what we've discussed tonight is what you're getting on Friday.
And will be in the packet for Thursday.
Anything? Okay, I'm good.
All right,
Can I?
Yeah.
There's one other subject I'd like to have come up in one of the budget meetings before and I'd like everybody to understand our debt. That we have $4 million worth of debt. And I don't think the public understands that and how we pay for it and how far out that debt is. So I just think that's an important discussion. And I still kind of would love to know a little bit more about our reserves, maybe based off this table. If we could talk about this a little bit too, because the reserves are what's keeping us afloat, frankly, in terms of the money we have to keep set aside.
I'll leave that non-line in the budget.
Okay, but am I the only one that would like to know more?
yeah, and the debt, as far as the debt goes, that's the one scary thing about getting Sarah loan. Is that we bring ourselves.
Right. And that's why I think just
Yeah. On
Thank
that note, also, if you do pursue that, then you have when they are looking at that, they're gonna look at our rates.
Yes.
And
Yes.
as they did when we did the 2 million project, that $8 million. They told us what our rates had to be at that point
In order to get the loan.
in order to get it.
Oh, well, so we may have another adjustment. Based on that. All right.
Okay. There's nothing else. Then I say, let's go home.
You make supper now?
Yeah, I was gonna say, thank God I stopped on my way back from Cedar Ridge and bought some sweet potato broth.